focused research efforts focused on child mortalities. Speaking at the Cambridge Centre for Global Health in Kisumu, Cambridge Acting Director General Elijah Songok highlighted that the mobile mortuary has proved a vital asset in the government agency's research owing to high numbers of community deaths recorded among children under the age of 5.
Procedure van has to take samples from a dead child within 24 hours, because if the child has to be attended to, or if we actually take samples beyond 24 hours, the child would have decomposed, so we will not be able to actually get the actual pathogens or possible causes of death.
The one of the countries they want to create is in Asia, in Bangladesh, they want to in Latin America and other African countries. So it's very critical that the research that we have got from this is really great indeed, as we want to inform the whole world that how critical this particular facility is.
The van, equipped with all necessary tools to conduct an autopsy, has so far carried out more than 1,000 post-mortem examinations, pivoting the country's efforts in eradicating child mortalities. Smoking, vaping or eating marijuana is linked to a significantly higher risk of heart attack and stroke, even if a person has no existing heart conditions and did not smoke or vape tobacco, according to a new study. While both daily and non-daily users had an increased risk of heart attack and stroke compared to non-users, stroke risk rose 42% and the risk of heart attack rose 25% if cannabis was used daily. The risk climbed as the number of days of use of marijuana rose. Now, various stakeholders were called upon to join hands and support the Green Building Initiative during a workshop organized by the Kenya Green Building Society in partnership with Real in Kenya. Now, the initiative seeks to unlock green affordable housing finance to solve the housing crisis in the Kenyan market while supporting the climate change programs. Speaking at the workshop, Chief Executive Officer Nasra Nanda noted that building green creates opportunities for all stakeholders who are keen on promoting a green environment. As key players in the building green journey, the private sector was challenged to state how they can support the government to achieve its agenda on affordable housing. Internationally, and Hamas has urged Palestinians to march to Jerusalem's Al-Aqsa Mosque at the start of Ramadan next month, raising their stakes in negotiating for a truce in Gaza, which US President Joe Biden hopes will be in place by then. The call by Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh followed comments by Biden that there was an agreement in principle for a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas during Ramadan, while hostages held by the militants are released. Biden said he hopes such an agreement would also allow more aid into the stricken Palestinian enclave and bring release of Palestinian prisoners could finally be realized. I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
.5 SpiceFM, Kisumu.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
Thank you very much, Eric, and it's good to be at the Situation Room.
Always a pleasure coming here. This is the most challenging interview panel in Kenya. You guys are very well informed, and as you can see, Charles today, very philosophical.
To be poor in this country is the greatest sin you can commit, not just from a legal perspective, but from life generally. Yeah. It is very, very skewed.
We've just heard on the floor of Parliament, just most recently, a leader within the ODM saying that sisi ni ng'ombe za baba.
Yeah.
Which means that you are willing to be milked dry.
You cannot force me to believe. I'll give way. If it's a land that I'm told to return to you, I will. Okay? Because the court has said so. But I'll continue saying, watu wamenirusha. That's all that I'm doing.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
If you go out of this country and come back the same person, then you have a problem. Buy land, 1 million. Put it there for 5 years. What's the purpose?
It'll have increased in value.
No, that's the thing. That's darkness. That's an eclipse. You don't do that.
I hope you don't believe that a hustler is a poor person, or that all hustlers are poor. I've seen that conversation.
Tell us, who is a hustler?
Who is a hustler? Hustler is a person who is making a living through hard work.
Corruption in Kenya is a political accusation. The people who are actually corrupt are not pointed fingers at.
Kenya is not free.
Kenya imeshikwa na mateka. It's under siege.
Have you seen that lodge on Nyeri Road? Very high fence. You can't even
windows
sleep inside.
Up near the ceiling.
Yes.
And if you walk there at midnight, you see bats the size of cows. And when it rains, it doesn't rain on that building.
Yes.
When you're at All Saints and it's raining, it doesn't rain on that building.
The things people will believe.
Well.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Good morning, and I love your show.
Thank you.
Having come from a Kikuyu radio background, I migrated to Spice because of the content.
I was born in a slum, but somehow I got a break in life. So sometimes when you see the sweating coming out because of the passion and whatever it is, behind the noise, there are people, and we share the same umbilical cord.
It shouldn't be like that. I am so disappointed. We used to tell Honorable Raila Odinga that he's doing politics of conmanship, and even President Uhuru Kenyatta, serikali hii ndio iko na conmanship ya hali ya juu. You cannot promise people that you reduce tax then you double.
In politics, there is the issue of trust. For you to turn around and then stab the same people who gave you that trust, there is no other level of dishonesty. And hii mambo utaona dunia tu.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest
Good morning and
conversation.
welcome to Thursday. What's happening on the roads this morning? Are you coming off a Thika Superhighway? Well, you're not going to have an issue at all, because right up until the Pangani underpass and just a smidgen of it, a bit of a hold up, but you'll be fine getting into the city. Not an issue here at all. On Kiambu Road, free and clear. Now is the time to experience Kiambu Road in all its glory. Get on it, get out real quick. On Limuru Road as well, we're looking at easy flow of traffic. Nothing's been held up, so fantastic there as well. As you're coming off of Jogo Road, just a little bit as you get towards the Makadara train station and you're heading out towards Landys Road, a little bit of Landys, and then heading out towards Kamkunji at the roundabout. Also, if you're coming off the Southern Bypass, you're looking pretty good. If you're going towards yet another bypass, or then coming in to the to Mombasa Road. So it looks good around the city. We'll have a look in a short while and see what Thursday pans out to be. Let's talk on SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag The Situation Room.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Aya, Africa oye.
Oh wow, okay.
Africa wa.
Two.
Mambo vipi?
Poa.
Nakuona.
Unaniona?
Nakuona bana.
Naona vizuri tu.
Ubuheri wa afya.
Ubuheri is what now?
Wewe uko buheri ya afya.
Okay. Are you insulting me?
Nasema afya yako inakaa iko tops.
Okay.
Hii mambo ya kusema sijui ulikuwa under the weather.
What's weather in Kiswahili? What's weather?
There's no one word for weather.
There's no one word for weather? Okay.
It's called hali ya anga.
Ulikuwa chini ya hali ya anga. Okay.
Yeah. How are you though?
I'm fine. Well,
very
yes.
Good.
I'm fine.
Very good. Very good. You know that song that's on my mind? You've heard me sing. By Rose Muhando. Yesu nakupenda.
I know it.
Bwana Yesu nakupenda. Then after that, now she goes into that full long many words into nakupenda. Nakupenda. Yesu. The number of words that she crams into that
You can't figure it out, eh?
Yeah.
I'm sure Ednah knows.
Yeah, Ednah sings it all the time. See, Ednah is from Tanzania.
Today, eh?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Ednah Mtanzania huyu bana. Huyu Ednah huyu Mtanzania. Mambo vipi everybody? It's the final day of February 2024. Tunaenda tukisonga. February done. Okay? Next March. When is Easter?
Easter Sunday is the 29th
Of
March.
Hiya. So we're getting into the Easter month.
Yes. What do you mean getting into the Easter?
The 40th day of Lent is Friday or the Sunday?
It's Sunday.
It's a Sunday. Since that time, it'll be 40 days.
The 14th
30 days from today.
14th of February was the beginning of Lent. If you count, you get bang on 40 on the 29th, Abi?
I don't know. I don't know, man.
Do you know Kwambia?
I just remember Lent was a long time ago.
Believe me.
Ash Wednesday was such a long time ago. That's the day when people were doing love things.
It was the 14th of February, Ash Wednesday.
Wait. That was a long time ago.
Just look at the similarities of Lent and Ramadan, because the Muslims are about to start celebrating.
Yes, they are.
And that's
Fasting
also 40.
as well.
And that's also 40 days. They take it a lot more seriously.
What do you mean a lot more seriously?
They fast.
And
fast.
The Christians don't.
Some do. Some don't. Those of the Christian faith who take the fasting seriously are the Catholics, the Roman Catholics. Yes.
Wengine?
It's a suggestion.
Okay.
Individually, there'll be people who actually fast irrespective of what denomination they adhere to. But by and large, the Catholics take it seriously.
Yeah. Not all of them, though.
No.
There's some people who give up certain things. They will not eat meat for the Lent period. They will not do...
They don't eat meat on Fridays.
Yes, now you've got it. You see, that's the diversity of that variety. Some will not eat something, some will not eat it on a weekly basis, some will not. Meaning, it's acknowledged that the evolution of Lent is such that you have to be sacrificial about something.
Yeah, you give up something.
You give up something during that particular period.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because God gave up his son, things.
Yeah.
So even you, since you adhere to the faith, you can get line, Bano.
Okay.
Get to the program.
Okay.
Yes.
Let me tell you what we'll be discussing today. At 7 o'clock, we shall be talking about the Moraga report on police reforms. This task force that was formed by the president had many people, and they were given the task of looking at the National Police Service, look at issues that are affecting the proper delivery of service by the National Police, and recommend what can be done. We have had many reports on the police. Ransli, Nani. So, Demas Kiprono is the acting executive director at the ICJ Kenya, and he'll be joining us at 7 a.m. The Moraga report on police reforms, the civil society's perspective on it. And then at 8 o'clock, we'll be joined by Engineer Peter Njenga. He's the managing director and CEO at KenGen, to come to talk to us about the roadmap to 100% green energy for Kenya. President William Ruto has made international statements and commitments that Kenya is gearing towards going 100% green in its energy mix by 2035, if I'm not wrong.
It is good to have a visionary president.
Already we are at over 90% of our power energy mix is green. It's actually, so it's just a small gap to fill. So what's that journey towards this? The largest power producer in the country, KenGen, the boss will be here. He'll tell us what are they doing towards that. And then at 9 o'clock, let's talk about the affordable housing levy. Okay, so yesterday we saw in social media an advisory by the Attorney General, Biden. The other name is? The Attorney General.
Oh, Justin Muturi.
No,
it's called Justin Biden Muturi.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. I beg your pardon.
Sema kila kitu.
Lazima. JBM.
Yes. Pana sema nusu.
Justin Biden Muturi, who is what? Who is the Attorney General of the Republic of Kenya. He wrote an advisory to the Kenya Revenue Authority and said, "Oh, by the way, the latest matter on the latest position on this is that there's a ruling, a judgment of the Court of Appeal that has said the housing levy is not legal. So as we speak to you today, we just go with what the courts have said. So far, the housing levy is not legal. Okay?" And this, of course, you can say is because President William Ruto has not yet signed the affordable housing bill into law. So, if that bill into law has not come into law, then
it's not legal.
Yeah, it's not yet legal. So people have been asking, sasa turudishwe pesa yetu. Wanataka tuwapatie M-Pesa namba? Tuambie aje. Kuria Kimani is the chairman of the National Assembly's Finance and Planning Committee. He's also the MP for Molo. He joins us at 9 a.m. Let's talk about affordable housing, what they've done with the affordable housing bill, this affordable housing levy, and what we should expect from it. So those are the conversations taking place today. Sawa?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. 18. It's already 18 past.
Buena.
Guy. Okay.
What?
18 minutes after 6. Let's take a look at the weather, and then we look at who's online on YouTube and Facebook.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Partly cloudy conditions in Nairobi after the rains. 17 degrees, highs of 26 and we'll see lows of 16. It's 16 and clear in Nakuru with highs of 26 and we'll see highs of 26 as well. And a clear Nyeri at 14. Looking into Eldoret, it's 11 degrees and clear, highs of 25. Mombasa is partly cloudy at 27 with highs of 32. We'll see lows of 26. Malindi is clear at 27 with highs of 32. And we're looking into a clear Kisumu at 19. We'll see highs of 29. It's 16 and clear in Kakamega, highs of 29. And we're looking into Kampala, where it's clear at 19 with highs of 29. Dar es Salaam is partly cloudy at 26 with highs of 32. Johannesburg is partly cloudy this morning at 12, highs of 26. And Mogadishu at 26, already partly sunny. We'll see highs of 33. It's 13 and cloudy in Addis Ababa. Highs of 24 and lows of 12, while Lagos is partly cloudy at 28. We'll see highs of 33. It's 26 and clear in Kinshasa with highs of 34. Looking into Beijing Thursday afternoon, it's 2 degrees and sunny, highs of 5 and lows of -5. Paris is cloudy at 9 degrees, going to highs of 11, while London is cloudy at 11, going to highs of just that. It's a rainy night Wednesday in New York at 8 degrees, coming into Thursday, highs of 16 and lows of 0.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Everybody's awake. Salam alaikum, says John Mwangi. Wa alaikum salam, and good morning to you. Good morning, says Raphael Kige. You have won my heart. Aww. Chris Adede is tuning in from Utawala, and Agri Momanyi says life is hard. You just wake up in the morning and say life is hard. Mm-hmm. Try now. Mm-hmm. Zeke says good morning. Excuse me. Wow. Zeke says good morning, Team Spice. Salam kutoka Atlanta. Mm-hmm. Joel Odondi says good morning, great people watching from Kansas City. I prayed for Ndu yesterday. I hope she's improving by God's grace and over the weather. Here I am over the weather. Grace Cosmos says good morning. My masters. All is fine in Doha. We're locked this morning. Njeve. What's Njeve?
Baridi.
Njeve is Baridi.
Which language?
Sheng Sheng.
Oh, I thought
Right.
Never mind.
Right. Got it.
Okay. Monica Oile says good morning to you. We love you. Well, we love you too. Today the wind in Ottawa is almost carrying my 100+ kgs. Serious, eh? Wow. Patrick Waishigo says, good morning, tuning from Kenton, Washington. Will TZ support Baba? C'est la question, no? Good morning, sitting to Eric and Yaboke. Getting you all from Bosongo. Looking forward to a great show today. Special greetings to Nyaboke today. Washington Okechi says, good morning, tuned in from Cambridge in Massachusetts. Good morning, guys. Just want to let you know that you always make my day. Thank you very much. Josek is tuned in from Meru. Robert Iboko is in Mombasa. Rogers Nyange is tuned in from Voi. Margaret Manjohi says, thank you for giving us space to ventilate. Indeed. Jimmy Weka says, tuned in. Mwenda is tuned in and says, Sisi Tuko, Germany calling. Agola says, Ndu's back. I see you, sister. Good morning to you. Lameka Otieno, thank you very much. Toti Bishop says, good morning. Tuned in from Otonglo. Ogani Malala is also tuned in this morning. Margaret Wanjo, yes, we see you, sister. Bonjour, bonjour, bonjour. Our girl is back. Yes, midterm is here. Joseph Nderi says, good morning. You love me like this? I love it. Good morning, guys. CT. Do Muslims actually fast or postpone eating times?
Fasting essentially amounts to that.
What is that?
Isn't it just that? You just don't eat and then you eat later. Well. That's what fasting is.
You break the normal patterns of eating that you have, where you eat intermittently after a certain period. This one you fast for a longer period. You don't eat for a long period of time.
Yeah.
Then you eat then some, and then you again go without food again. Yes.
They've also said that your hat is like Afro cinema. In fact, as you wear that hat, we should be greeting you Ogboefi. Ogboefi.
Whatever that means, thank you.
Just say Fifi.
No.
You say Dalu. Dalu ne.
So what if I said Dalu Fifi?
Doesn't mean anything. Agola says, surely Eric, you're murdering the song. Yesue nakupenda kama vile ulivyo nipenda kwanza nakupenda.
Sasa mwambia imbe hivyo haraka.
Hapana. Yosifanyi. It's Gregory who's telling you look like Afro cinema. Kennedy Wanjala is also...
Is there a reggae music called Gregory Isaacs?
There is.
Okay, so Gregory, thank you.
There you go.
Yes.
Robert Pito is here. Sami Mwalili, Jakwere, Siraj bin Bilal, everybody. Karibuni sana this morning.
Kabisa. City. The night nurse. Night nurse. She's in the love with a man called Gregory.
You know, today we have a funeral service for a friend of mine called Dr. Fred Oduor.
That's in honor of Fred Oduor.
Yes.
Condolences to you and your friends and his family.
Yes.
May he rest well.
Great man.
He was a great man, eh?
Oh, he was a great man.
Yeah.
Great man, great rugby player. Yeah, a very unique fellow. You know these fellows who they make one and then they break the mold. So you're not going to find a duplicate.
He was the only one.
Yeah, you cannot duplicate.
That mold was not duplicated.
It's difficult to duplicate Dr. Fred. Freddy. Difficult.
Nice.
Before you ask a man for clothes, look at the clothes he's wearing.
Before you ask a man for clothes, look at the clothes he's wearing.
Yes.
These are still the Beninois.
We are still... How is this thing pronounced, no?
Which one?
Benin.
Oh, okay. There are three pronunciations, actually.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Start with the English one.
So Benin is what everybody would say.
Okay.
Then en français, Benin.
Benin, yes.
Benin. But now,
And
if
then
you
in
were in
Portuguese?
Nigeria, the Benin, it's actually Bini. The Bini kingdom is Bini. So the Wazungu bastardized it because they couldn't pronounce it.
Couldn't say Bini.
They couldn't say Bini. So they said, well, it must be Benin because they couldn't figure it out. And remember, the kingdom spread outside of Nigeria.
All
It was huge.
Yeah, it was huge. Then it was now settled into Nigeria, and now what became the republic. So it's actually Bini, B-I-N-I. There's a language, it's a culture. It was part of a kingdom. But again, the white man couldn't say Bini, so it was like the way they can't say Igbo. So they said it's Igbo.
Okay. So what do you call the people from Benin?
Bini.
They're called the Bini
people. They're the Bini people, B-I-N-I.
Righty. Righty. So they said, before you ask someone for a man for
Before you ask a man for clothes, look at the clothes he is wearing.
Safi.
Well, we do repay our friends the Bazungu in kind, because here we are. They go about doing all manner of things, reconstructing our words and language. We do the same with theirs. Like there's one every morning that we mention, weather. Then somebody comes and says weather. So now you're wondering,
Leave those people alone. Those Mzungu guys came to a place in Kiambu and they found people playing a very interesting game.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
And that very interesting game, and this one now this is the truth.
This is real.
Whatever you've been told before, forget it.
Dismiss it.
This
delete.
is the truth.
Okay.
The people are playing a very interesting game, and they looked at them, and they asked, "What game are you playing?" Cricket. And they called it cricket. That's why you have cricket stadium. That's what they play there.
Oh, Father Lord, please.
Right.
Headlines, please.
I can't. That's where we are. All right. See, did you have the other papers by any chance?
I do have. Which one would you like? Nation, perhaps?
Yes, please.
All right.
As you're doing like that.
There we are.
Wow,
Eric.
thank you.
The Business Daily, perhaps?
Yes.
There we are.
Sansana.
Yes.
So, apparently, Gachagua is living a nightmare.
Is it now?
Living on a dream. This one is living a nightmare. According to the Standard headline, Gachagua living worst nightmare after President William Ruto trounced Raila in the 2022 deputy...
Just start again.
Even though I'm after President William Ruto trounced Raila in 2022, or there should be a comma, Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua expressed his fears for a possible rapprochement between the two competitors. His worst fears have come true, and it seems there is very little he can do. So, Azimio troops push Raila to name his successor. Now that you're going to Addis Ababa, or now that the world thinks you're going to Addis Ababa,
unatuachia nani?
You can't just leave us like that. It's not good now. Good news as insurer gives tutors more benefit.
In another 29 days, disciples will be asking Jesus, "At now you're going. So who are you leaving?"
That's it. Who are you leaving us to?
The disciples asked Jesus the same exact question. The 2 million or whatever years later.
Thousands.
Can't just leave us like that. It's unfair.
Adults are asking a fellow adult. Unatuacha aje sasa?
But in Kenya, when somebody asks that question, in a political sense, unatuacha tu hivi namna hii. Unatuacha tu namna hii. How?
Hivyo.
Utuacheka kitu.
Utuacheka kitu.
Tutors, teachers otherwise, are getting more benefits from the insurer. We'll tell you what that is in a minute. Sad journey of little-known marathoner, unfortunately, the one who passed over the weekend. Experts fault Ruto plan on pending bills. The plan for bringing in a committee to now start asking questions about the bill. People are saying, you know what? Exercise in what? Futility. Irony of government hostile to media seeking publicity. What happened? CSs and PSs have been instructed to ensure government projects are carried in mainstream media at least once a week. Hang on a quick minute. Which media?
All.
Just like that. For free.
Just make sure that you appear. Tell the people. And then?
Folly of quitting a job for elusive greener pastures. Those who quit their jobs knowing that you're going out of the country, and then once you've done all your things, they tell you, actuary. Kunavele.
Okay.
On the front page of The Nation, Raila's AU job race faces new hurdle. Tenor. Former Prime Minister Raila Odinga may have won the endorsement of his political arch nemesis, President William Ruto, to seek the position of chairperson of the African Union Commission. But now, he must wait to see if AU member states will adopt or reject a proposed election rule that may as well lock him out of the 2025 contest. It's not just cut and dry.
Bado.
Leap year babies.
Raila akona system, lakini bado.
Ana system ya Afrika.
This time we have the system on our side. Deja vu. Aongelesha Chebukati vizuri. Otherwise.
Inawezekana.
Tuendelee.
Leap year babies and their rare birthday. How old are they, really?
I have a nephew.
Who was born on the 29th.
Who was born on the 29th of February, 2004.
Yeah, that guy's not old.
So he's 4.
He's only 5. He's turning 5.
He's been on this earth for the last 22, 3 years.
Yes.
But he's 5.
Yes.
Okay, so
his cousin, who's my daughter, is 20.
Okay. Muturi warns the tax man over illegal housing levy collections. Omo, see it. Okay. Anyway, so. Yeah, I'll tell you the story.
Business Daily. Banks alarmed as Kenyans shift to daily survival loans. Kenyan borrowers are increasingly turning to survival loans to meet pressing needs such as food and rent, pointing to rising debt distress that risks pushing the stock of loan defaults towards the 700 billion shilling mark. Kenya Bankers Association Chairman John Gashora said the industry is seeing a reduced appetite for loans towards capital expenditure such as construction or expansion of businesses. Instead, those borrowing for short-term needs are the ones driving up the growth in the loan book. People are just borrowing like for, small things. Yeah, pesa kidogo ya matumizi. This John Gashora man, we need to talk to him. Ednah, tuweke yeye kwa hiyo mpango. He is the MD of NCBA Bank. As we're talking about Kenyans borrowing pesa ya, fuliza ya kununua mboga, the Treasury is also doing the same. It has taken 11 new loans in 4 months. The Treasury borrowed 223.5 billion shillings in the 4 months to January from 11 new loans contracted between September last year and the end of January this year. Okay. Even the Treasury is borrowing for daily survival.
Treasury na fuliza. So fuliza is for everybody.
Imagine. Cash outside banks hits an all-time high of 282 billion shillings in December. That's cash outside of banks rose to that all-time high, pointing to increased liquidity in the economy in a period that saw parastatals pay pending bills. So there was a lot of money floating here and there. Pesa ya kununua nini? Boga. There's a Mauritian firm that is called Phoenix Beverages Limited, which has received approval to acquire a 28.15% stake in a local firm that manufactures alcoholic and non-alcoholic beverages. I'll tell you which one that is.
Shortly.
And the other headline is AG advising KRA to stop collecting contentious housing tax. What's on the Star?
Star, top right-hand corner in Till Green. Now this is something that is alarming. Okay? It's Naivasha again. Yes, mother of 2 fights for life after beastly attack by husband. Right? He poured hot water on her and then stabbed her in the abdomen. By the time people came about, her insides were actually already pouring out of her body.
No, stop it.
Yes, I'm just telling you what.
You will tell us that story in detail?
Yes, just telling you this. That's
You've alarmed us enough.
Okay. Harvey on LSK polls and future of the legal profession. That is the story. On page 9, troops differ fresh. Row looms over affecting Ruto Raila's talk support. This is not new. This always happens. It happened with one handshake. It happened with another handshake. It's always happening with a handshake.
Okay.
If whatever form the handshake is. Now, bang in the middle of the paper, gender rule. Parliament has failed 10 times to pass enabling law. They haven't failed. They just, when someone doesn't want to do something, that's not failing. They just don't want to do it. Failing is trying to and then not being able to achieve it. But this one, they don't want to. So it's not that they failed. Wage crisis. Ruto team push for 55 more female MPs. Task force wants the law amended to limit a candidate to 2 terms.
All right.
This one is an interesting one.
So it says if you're a woman rep, you only go for that seat for 2 terms.
Yes, then if that's the case, why don't they just limit the MPs as well? Because that's the argument that's going to take place.
But see, I can see what they're saying, but we'll talk about it later.
Okay. I am going nowhere. Now, there's this picture. The Star is a huge picture in the middle of the paper. This is a picture of Raila and a whole host of people who I believe represent the Azmio. I'm going nowhere, says Raila, over hanging up boots in local politics. Okay. After all, Ethiopia is just here, literally here.
Yeah, but he'll be busy doing something else.
He's always busy doing something else.
Remember,
so he can add something else to what he already has.
Tsunami inakuja yache aende deal na Niger.
Ngoja ucheze.
Na Mali.
He is going to the AU.
Yeah.
UN will see. He'll lead Mandamana against them.
And against UN.
Yes. Joking.
Okay. Let's see what the traffic is looking like.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
I've got a plan that covers my car so well that even the traffic honks with approval.
ICEA Lion has a plan for everyone. Talk to us today for a plan that's right for you. Or visit icealion.co.ke. ICEA Lion. What's your plan?
All right, coming around to a few minutes after 6:30, and traffic is starting to build up different parts of the city right now. Coming in from the Thika Superhighway, we're looking at that Pangani underpass, which started to build up early. And then out, coming in from Kasarani, it's then starting to build up going through towards the city. Still nothing too alarming at this point. It's all right. On Kiambu Road, some traffic then coming out towards Muthaiga Square. We've not seen it go any further than that, at least not for now. Coming in from Gong Road, and also touching on the junction from Naivasha Road, a little bit of traffic here as well. You're good coming in from North Airport Road. That's in from Cabanas out towards Eastern Bypass. That all looks good for now. We're still to get into traffic hour. Let's see what happens when we do. Let's talk in the meantime on SpiceFM. KE on X hashtag The Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
So, I want to look at this Justin Biden Muturi story.
Okay.
The AG.
Umeenda Addis.
Mimi niko Addis Ababa.
Addis ilimpata huko.
Is warning the KRA over illegal housing levy collections. He has cautioned the Kenya Revenue Authority against making any collections from the Affordable Housing Levy, which was declared illegal by the Court of Appeal on the 26th of January. KRA Commissioner General Humphrey Watanga had, in a February 12th letter, sought guidance from the AG on the government's position on the controversial levy. Muturi told KRA that the levy had no legal basis following the court's decision, hence the taxman should not make collections. The upshot of this is that there is no legal basis on which the housing levy, as provided in Section 84 of the Finance Act, can be implemented, the AG said. It cannot be implemented. It was declared illegal. So you cannot collect on it. Therefore, our considered opinion is that as of the date of delivery of the ruling at the Court of Appeal, i.e. January 26th, there is no legal provision that enables the collection and administration of the housing levy. He added to the letter copy to Treasury Principal Secretary Chris Kipto and his Housing and Urban Development counterpart Charles Hinga and the Solicitor General Shadrach Mose. However, Mr. Muturi yesterday said Parliament was working on a law to provide a basis for the continued collection of tax. So right now, you cannot collect money because the court has said this thing in its entirety is illegal. So on an illegal thing, then cannot collect money, which essentially would be the vehicle to activate it. You cannot activate something that's illegal. However, he just said, Parliament is working on a law then that allows you to continue to collect. But now, how would you continue to collect on something that has still been deemed illegal? That's a question I think is coming from many quarters. He says this: even though I have told you that Parliament is working on something, I'm still repeating myself.
As we
My
stand
letter
today,
is clear. I made no reference to the Constitution. The law is being made in Parliament to provide a basis. But as of that date, the basis ceased to what? Exist. So do not go and collect money, because I have told you very clearly, you sought my opinion, you sought the interpretation. I have told you the thing is illegal. You go collect money, you're doing a what? An illegal thing.
it's just talk now.
You think it's just talk?
It's just talk. Look, that thing has passed Parliament. It's going to the President. He'll assent to it. Now they will say we have legal basis.
They will have legal basis.
Okay? So, yes, they are not collecting for February.
Now.
They are not returning what they had collected before. They will collect end of March. Tuko pamoja.
So Biden is just...
No, Biden is just putting it on
boxing.
record. He's just putting it on record.
That's his job,
Because now you go somewhere and say, even the government broke the law. You say, no. You see, we followed what the court told us.
By the time someone of such standing and in the position that he has makes such an open statement, which appears to be going against the wishes of his government, it tells you the government is aligned. And the government is now telling you that we abide by the law.
Yes.
We. His government, advisor to government, him, saying, I, as the Attorney General, there's no duplicate, it's him. Once he has said, the government has spoken. End of that particular legal story. But it will be signed, as Eric says. It will become law.
And then watakujia pesa.
And you'll find that law doesn't have a refund clause.
Yes, it doesn't. That's the issue now. That the next battle will be, okay, so what happens to the money that you had collected?
Yes, we would like ours.
From us before. Yeah?
Can we get ours?
Can we get our pesa yetu irudi nini?
Tuende tununue nayo. Pressing matters.
Yeah. Haya, sasa iko kitu ingine hapa. Okay, let's just do this one. Cabinet secretaries and their principal secretaries have been instructed to ensure government projects implemented under them are carried in mainstream media at least once a week. Correspondence from the office of the Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi to Secretary to the Cabinet Mase Wanjau reveals the irony of a government that has loathed mainstream media, but it wants to use it to keep in touch with its citizenry. The circular drafted by Mudavadi's Chief of Staff Joseph Busiega says government projects are poorly understood due to failure by ministry officials to engage. One contributing factor to the negative publicity surrounding the national government is reluctance of cabinet secretaries and PSs to engage with the media. The circular, dated February 26th, says, consequently, despite the administration's diligent execution of numerous beneficial projects, the general public remains unaware of these successes. During the meeting in Naivasha, where the president was meeting with the cabinet and PSs and other senior officials, Ruto ridiculed MPs and other government officials for not following media conversations on government projects and plans. This is when he was asking MPs, did you guys know that there were 2,500 nursing jobs opportunities open in Saudi? And the MPs were like,
yeah, nursing jobs. Yeah, KMTC trains them.
Wapi?
Kazi wapi?
Saudi Arabia wapi?
Saudi.
Sehemu gani?
Saudi Arabia, Dubai.
Okay.
Dubai. Saudi Arabia. Qatar. Saudi Arabia.
Emirates.
And the president was like, you want to be told by who? You haven't been told. Don't you read newspapers? When I talk, you think it's just hot air. Ama you don't understand English.
Why?
So anyway, this story is basically saying, after that retreat, those who were in that meeting, came out, and Musalia was like, now let's actually go out there and engage. It was discussed, we've been told, by those who were close to those who were in the meeting.
Who were close to those who were in the meeting.
Sources close to the source.
Tell us.
That yes, that was the general conversation. Let us make sure that we go out there in the media and engage, which they should not even have to be told to. This is what they should be doing.
No,
this platform of ours exists here so that we can engage with them, so we can hold them accountable for it. And when they were being told, go to Spice, because they were told, go to Spice. This is what they were being told. Come and answer to the people of Kenya. Sasa wanakuja hapa mara moja, and then they take off. You start looking for somebody, and you're looking for a minister. Your minister is in charge of trade, and you've been looking for them for so many months, and they're busy. Oh, I'd like to come, but now next week
I'm traveling.
Now the other one.
Delegation.
We've been called by HE. What stories? Come and speak to the people. In fact, Musalia is one of those now. We've already reached out to Musalia's office.
Let him come.
Yeah, mwenyewe. Can he lead by example? Musalia Mudavadi, come, sit here and talk to the people of Kenya. Hiya, City. You had a very, very, very...
It's alarming because this is something that we talk about literally on a daily basis. Some crime that is related to gender, and it's in Naivasha. And this story tells us of the informal settlements that are in Naivasha, and there seem to be plenty. This particular one is called Kayole. Okay?
In Naivasha?
In Naivasha. It's called Kayole. It's an informal settlement. But these matters of gender violence we keep reading of them literally every single day. And the person who gets the short end of the stick seems to be a mother of children, a woman. Okay? Beastly attack on this lady. Husband, former AP, comes home drunk as a skunk. Boils water. Next thing she knows, she's pouring this water. She turns her back, so her back gets burnt. She's writhing in pain, takes a knife, stabs her in the belly. Now, the problem is this guy is a former AP, so we are told, according to this article. He says, he has connections. And if the family doesn't
That's what
behave,
you're saying.
yes, he has connections. And the family had better not joke with him. First of all, no one is going to arrest him. Because he has connections. Then suddenly the man with the connections has gone into hiding. He can't be found. Maybe the connections are hiding him. But the thing that I'm finding alarming, is it a reporting issue? Is there somebody who's very, very lively in reporting? Or is it that there's a preponderance of violence that we're seeing coming out of Naivasha and these informal settlements in Naivasha? There are many. Remember, this is the same place where there's some mother who killed her children. Remember that one?
Yeah.
I mean, I could list the gory details of what has happened in Naivasha. There are many. Surely.
It's not pretty. It's not a pretty picture.
No, it's not a pretty picture at all. At all.
No, it isn't.
And why this place?
And it's been this way for years.
This place?
Yeah. It's been this way for years.
We are not going to enter the realm of suppositions and extraterrestrials, but this is something that needs to be looked into.
Yeah. Something is not right. Peter Nje here, a brother to this woman, says the suspect is dangerous, especially when he gets drunk. He says, this guy is a good man, but when he drinks, he becomes violent, and he has in the past attacked me, but the issue was resolved amicably. So he has even attacked his brother-in-law. According to John Kinodia from the Naivasha Gender-Based Networking Cluster, they have recorded over 10 cases of gender violence this year alone. Most of these cases are coming from the informal settlements of Naivasha. Women are the hardest hit, as is the current case.
You know, if you now segregate this story and you look at cases where some of these matters we're discussing involve servicemen, people who have been in the police force, disciplined forces, you realize that the discussion we had, and we've had for a long time regarding mental health, specifically with regards to these men and women who face the brunt of everything we're reading here on a daily basis. Whether it's decomposing bodies, someone who's been decapitated, whether you're looking for bodies somewhere in a game park, it is them who deal with these things on a daily basis. That question we asked last year, let's ask it again. What exactly has the government done to ensure that the mental well-being of those whom we put directly in touch with harm on a daily basis? What has been done and what is being done right now?
One of the things that we'll be discussing, of course, is whether it's contained in that report by Justice Maraga, right?
Yes.
On police reforms. What are they doing to ensure the mental well-being of those officers? Because you can imagine, everywhere, every time you hear there's been a case, somebody was found murdered, a decomposing body was recovered.
It is the police.
It is the cops who come to pick that thing, and they put the body not in an ambulance, not in a morgue vehicle, in the back of their pickup,
which
and they sit with it.
Yes, exactly.
And they take it to the morgue and they remove it themselves. So usually a mob has decided to kill somebody, torch someone. They will come, clear the mob, take that person who's been badly burnt, either take them to the hospital or take them to the mortuary.
I think we ignore or downplay to a very high degree level the psychological effects that some of these things have on folks who have to deal with it every day. For example, who counsels Johansson Odur?
Yeah.
And the people in his team?
Yep.
Who counsels police officers every month? Who gives an option whereby you can come and have a chat with us? So then it could sound that maybe I'm doing a very simple equation, but then really, what do you expect later on, where somebody has dealt with years and years of trauma? You would not be surprised. And it's not a justification. Neither is it an excuse for violence. But would you be surprised if such a person then
became violent?
No, cause and effect. But do take the story further. Let's say someone is in some of these bandit-prone areas, and you are a child, and you grow up with all this. Some along the line, you join the disciplined forces. What sort of person do you think this is going to be? No one counseled this person. When this person is given arms, and they're now given legal permission to be violent, what sort of violence do you think this person will unleash?
Let me give you a quick example. I know we're in a quick example. Where I live, there are quite a number of Sudanese nationals. And they are former refugees. Some of them been to other countries and come out.
Okay.
So they grew up in this state where it was war, conflict, violence all the time.
That's what they used to.
That's what they saw as children, as toddlers. So now these 14, 15-year-olds, do you know what they're doing? They're terrorizing children in the estate. Because this is what they know. You want to play football, you want to play, and somebody refuses you to play. The next thing
unleash terror.
Is terror. It's violence. Until now, people are saying these people have got to go. But what do you expect if you are in this situation every single day?
Those children need help. The parents need help.
Exactly.
Now, who helps them? Who helps all these children who are displaced from schools and where the schools they were schooling in are now home to bandits?
Exactly.
And this isn't the first time they've been moved. What about people who have had their loved ones shot before their very eyes? And yet they also know how to use weapons. And they're walking and living among you. When, again, they happen to join the forces, whether civilian forces, the police, or the military, and you legally arm that person, what sort you tell me, what do you think you're going to see?
Yep.
You know, all these ragtag militia types who wanted independence for the sake of terrorizing their people on this continent and use child soldiers. The UN understood the need to slowly debrief and ensure that these people get normalized. You know why? That whole crop of people unleashed onto society. Where?
My friend.
Where?
Hey. Let me tell you a story from the Employment and Labor Relations Court. We have hosted Justice Nduma Nderi here from that court. He had a case that was brought before him, and the star witness was a guy called Issa Mbwana, who had resigned from his job at DHL Supply Chain, where he worked as a plant operator, for a promised lucrative job in Congo in 2016. The recruiter was supposedly a company named Crosslink Services Limited. They claimed to offer 400 USDs per month. In today's exchange rate, that's about 58,000 bob. And an assurance that the money would be paid once the company is paid by the UN. You come, we work, we have a contract with the UN, we get paid, we pay you. All that was required for him and 13 others was to foot their expenses to Congo, which would be refunded upon arrival. So you find your way to Congo. Mkifika, tufanye kazi, tutawalipa. Mbwana and the others lost their jobs. They have also lost a case against Crosslink and its director, Sam Odera. The Employment and Labor Relations Court Judge Nduma Nderi said, although he sympathizes with the 14 people, he says, look, you are the ones who failed to do due diligence. The court finds that the claimants did not carry out proper due diligence before they offered themselves for employment in the Congo. The court notes that the claimants had indeed forfeited good jobs in Kenya in search of greener pastures. What befell the claimants was largely their own doing. That's what the court told them. You are approached by somebody. He told you, use your own money. Find your way to Congo. Work. When he gets paid, he'll pay you. Did you find out whether he has a contract with this? Did you see a contract?
No, please.
Did you see anything? No. Did you sign a contract with these people? In the case, they argued that they were informed by Odera that since Crosslink had not been paid by the UN, they would get the money that they used for travel. Upon arrival, Mbwana said their expenses were not refunded. There was no proper accommodation. They also claimed they had no food or money for basic needs. The 14 alleged that Odera convinced them that things would change as soon as UN pays. Mbwana, who was a star witness in the case, says he stayed in the Congo for 4 months. But he says, ukweli judge, I did not have a work permit to work in Congo. He also told the court they were unaware who the directors of Crosslink were. According to them, Odera was the employer. The court also heard that there was no written agreement that the 14 would get their travel fees. He also said they were unaware that the visas they were issued with were cancelled, but asserted they did not commit any crime in Congo. Later, they were given facilitation fees to return to Kenya with the promise that they would get to be brought back. Odera told the court He's Crosslink's director. However, he denied that he had employed those 14. Me, I'm a director of Crosslink. These 14, I didn't employ
Don't know them.
Me, I didn't employ them. One. In his response, he said, none of them went to Congo at their own expenses as alleged. He said 2 of them were kicked out of Congo for crime. The rest were unable to secure visas. According to him, they were returned to Kenya for failing to produce documents for visa application. The court says, you guys did not do due diligence. You left a job here.
You should have
promised Congo,
no contracts,
dollars,
no
documentation.
UN.
Let's ask this question again. What jobs did they leave here?
This guy,
obviously,
this guy was working as a plant operator at DHL supply chain.
And there were plans he was going to now work in DRC.
$400 a month.
Must have been more than what he was earning as a plant operator.
Course.
Yeah.
Of course. And this guy has told them, just let's come, Trende, we get this job, we do this job, I get paid, I pay you. Once we get there, I'll refund your money. They get there, 4 months.
It is sad.
It is.
It is sad because I'm thinking of the expectation these individuals must have had.
Yeah.
The lure of the money that they presumed they would receive. Then it means that circumstances they were working in here must have been fairly dire. I was doing just the math of the $400.
In today's rate, it's 50K.
Yes.
Let's say, even then, if it was in which year was this? In 20s, when they were living, let's even say $1 was 100. So that's 40 Gs. 40 Gs is a lot of money for many people.
Yes, it is a lot of money.
Yeah.
But then, anyway.
Yep. It's not many people who earn 40,000 shillings a month in this country.
No, they don't actually. There are very few people who earn 40,000 shillings. Yes.
So it was greener pastures in all aspects. Where?
A serious way.
And then you hear of all these cases now where people are leaving the country to go and work abroad, in those informal ways. They get there and they find things are just different. This is not what I had signed up for. In like a story that was in DW the other day, you go in there, Kumba, you're going into a human trafficking ring. It's just very, very many cases.
To you,
yes.
So you get there.
In this country, we have a National Employment Authority, and that institution has completely failed. It should be closed. Everybody go home. Everybody. And we start afresh. Okay. Keep it here for more conversations coming up in the next hour. Today we have several, all right? One of them will be the one we start with at 7. Which one are we starting with at 7?
Wait.
No, I can't wait.
Don't worry. You can't wait.
You can't wait to see what we'll be discussing at 7. Time for the news. Good morning.
Spice up your life.
Good morning, this is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Azimio leader Raila Odinga has allayed fears from leaders within the coalition who want him to name his successor should he clinch the AU Commission chairperson position. Speaking in Homa Bay County, Odinga has said that despite running for the position, he will still be contributing to local politics.
But I'm not going away. Addis Ababa, as Charity said, is only 2 hours away from Nairobi. I'm available. Whatever I'm called, I will answer. I'm ready to work with you people. But what is important is that we must ensure that what we set out to do is eventually achieved and accomplished. We had said, and you also, some of you may be forgetting, we said that we are unbogable. We are unbogable. We are also unpangerable. We cannot be pangered. Who can pangoa? Who can pangoa?
Former Kitui Governor Charity Ngilu demanded and requested Raila to give his supporters a way forward should he head the AU Commission.
I know you want me to sit down, but before I sit down, Baba, umepangaje? Umetupangiaje? You know, I'm told to avoid the politics here, but I don't think I can avoid politics. And I think many of you will not ask. But I've been with Baba for all my years in politics. Kwa hivyo I can ask him, ni lazima atuelezee, na mtoto akitoka kwa mama yake au baba akiacha watoto lazima wapange. Kwa hivyo nataka kukuuliza Baba, tupange vizuri. You know, ulitupanga in 2002. You must punk us again so that we know how to take this country forward.
Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka, who is promoting himself to replace Odinga, however, says there will be no leadership gap if Odinga takes the position.
Kenyans must know for sure from here that what you are saying is there's no vacuum, absolutely no vacuum. In fact, we have up to April for Raila Odinga to submit his documents. But of course, before then, he has to traverse the continent to look for votes. And this I'm sure he will do. When he was the African High Representative for Infrastructure, he did a lot of that.
Interior CS Kithure Kindiki is expected to hold another meeting with the leaders from Rift Valley and Northeastern to discuss insecurity in their areas. Yesterday, Kindiki was in Samburu County just a day after the residents protested the killing of Angatana Ikie Ward Representative Paul Shimpiro last weekend. During the visit, Kindiki announced that the government is expected to start an operation in the areas affected by the attacks.
We are also going to add new formations, security formations in this area, especially to seal the routes and the gaps which these criminals are using. At the same time, we are going to gazette new areas which had not been gazetted in the past, and we are also going to launch a fresh serious operation on the Malaso Valley, which is a source of violence.
In Baringo County, there is still unrest as the residents of Saimosoi Ward have started evacuating their homes, fearing for their safety. They are now calling on the national government to intervene to solve the problem.
Hata saa hii penye mbuzi tulikuwa tumehamia, tulikuwa tunatoka huko chini tukahamia huko juu. Ndio wanaendelea kutufuata. Na tunasema tuko na watu wa amani, askari tuko nayo KDF. Wanakuja tu para waingi msituni vile penye watu wanaishi.
Tunataka rais ajue kwamba wewe ndio uko na pattern. Ukisema leo watu ya Saimosoi wapate amani, watapata amani. Ukinyamaza venye umenyamaza, hakuna amani itakuja.
And police are probing the mysterious disappearance of a 37-year-old Siaya County government official who went missing while on duty at the county revenue offices on Monday. Nicholas Oro, an enforcement officer, was reported missing when his torn uniforms, beret and mobile phone were discovered within the premises. Oro's current whereabouts remain unknown, causing immense anguish for his family members. His wife Mary almost said they learned of his disappearance when his colleagues visited their home in Rarieda sub-county to inquire about him. She added that her husband left home on the evening of February 26th and reported to work as per his usual routine, but did not return home the next day. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseta. Good morning.
SpiceFM, Nakuru.
It's a few minutes after 7 o'clock and getting into traffic hour this morning, probably about half hour or so. Let's take a look at what's going on in different parts of the city. Coming off of the Thika Superhighway this morning, it is quite busy. Right about coming in from Garden City. But before that, I think it will be fine. As you get onto then Survey and then into the city by way of Muranga Road, that's where it gets really busy. The junction then touching on Parklands, Limuru Road and Wangari Maathai Way is very busy right now. There's a hold up there. There could be something we don't know. Just in case you're there, shout out. Please do that. On Uhuru Highway, getting into the city, it's also pretty busy. Jogo Road is also starting to do the thing. And there we have traffic coming in from Cabanas out towards North Airport Road, coming in towards Outer Ring at the junction. It's all starting, and it's starting early this morning. Let's see what happens as we get into traffic hour later, and let us talk on SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room.
Thank you very much for joining us. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room, on SpiceFM, KTN Home, YouTube, Facebook, here every weekday morning from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m., having lovely conversations on all matters, including financial matters, where we tell you you're running a business. Remember yesterday we told you about Ndu's import-export business. We dealt with the import side, where she imports these goods from Nigeria, sells them to Kenya. She also exports goods from Kenya to Nigeria and other parts of Africa. And where she has suppliers in Kenya, she has customers in those other countries, not just in Nigeria, but other parts of Africa as well. When the customers or her agents receive money, they deposit into her business's EcoBank account. So in those other countries, she has opened in those local currencies because people are paying and buying goods in the local currencies. For example, in Ghana, what's the currency?
Cedis.
In Nigeria?
Naira.
Tell me another country. In Lome? Togo?
CFA.
In Togo?
CFA.
CFA.
The Francophone countries is a CFA.
Mostly CFA.
In SA?
Rand.
Okay. So when they are doing that, and you have your companies are locally denominated.
Yes.
That is what she just said. Minting money.
Minting cash. They deposit the money into those local denomination accounts.
Yeah.
And then you want to then start getting that money so that you can pay your suppliers here in Kenya in shillings. Seamless, isn't it?
EcoBank makes it seamless.
It is, really.
You get that money. Yes, you get that money in the currency that you actually need.
Yes.
Yes.
Then that you go, first of all, let's convert this due into what, and then we shall reconvert back into shilling.
God knows who else, no.
Oh, do we sit somewhere in a bank? Do we, before the treasury guys in that bank decide to put it in? No, it's immediately, right? Your agency in SA gets paid, deposit money, you have account, you have access to that account, you want to transfer from that one into this Kenya one, transfer, pay people Kenya.
Real quick.
Huh?
Exactly. Real time. And it's great because it's real time. So whichever of the 35 markets where you have a presence, EcoBank says because you're plugged into the platform, you can actually be part of this wonderful experience of seamless business. It's one platform, it's plug and play, 35 markets around Africa and 4 markets in other parts of the world. It's a better way. It's a better Africa.
And because Africa is the frontier, not next frontier, is the frontier right now for business with the Africa Continental Free Trade Area and others, think big, go EcoBank. If you have a plan to expand or plan to do business, you can also talk to ICA Lion. What's your plan? Do you have a plan, City?
Yes, I do have a plan. Right now I was planning to take a sip of this water. But clearly, my plan has been interfered with. So let's get on with this other plan.
Bigger one.
If you plan to take water for the next 10 years,
your life.
Yes, talk to ICA Lion. How will they sort you out?
Well, ICA Lion will ask you about what it is you think you want to do. They'll walk you through the things that are possible.
Yes.
And they'll give you an array of possibilities. And they'll wheedle that into something that you can consider a weedable plan that you can actually not only activate, but action and benefit from.
Very good.
Yes.
If you want to talk to ICA Lion, and you should, please just reach out to them. Send them an email, plan@icalion.co.ke. That's plan@icalion.co.ke, or their website, icalion.co.ke. On social media, they have very active bots. So you just go, send them a DM, they'll engage with you immediately. They are not waiting for tomorrow at sijui hours we work only 12 hours. So tomorrow morning when we wake up we'll respond to you. They send you that automated message. We normally respond very fast. We shall get back to you shortly. No, they will get back to you immediately. Okay? That's why they say, if you've got a plan, talk to us. We will help you with a plan. Our next conversation is going to be about police reforms. President William Ruto formed a task force and told them, please look at the welfare of the National Police Service. And not just the police. Look at the others as well, the prisons of service officers as well. Look at them. Look at their recruitment. Look at their remuneration. Look at their how they are facilitated to do their work. Look at their well-being. How are they housed? How are they dressed? Are their children going to school? Are they happy at work? What do we need to do to make sure that the police... The person who has made the chair of this is Chief Justice Emeritus David Maraga. The report is out, and that's what we want to discuss. We are joined by the Acting Executive Director of the International Commission of Jurists Kenya Chapter, ICJ Kenya, Demas Kiprono. Demas, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Karibu sana. That's a hot seat of the Situation Room.
Yes.
We shall be discussing this report in great detail. We want to hear the civil society perspective on this.
Yes.
I'm sure you followed the work of this task force throughout its work, its tenure. I'm sure you've interrogated this report, and you have also been working in the justice sector, looking at the police service for many years, and even the prison officers. So you'll tell us whether you like it or not. But before you do that, CT has got a plan to give you a proverb.
I do have a plan, and I'm actually going to actualize that plan. Our proverbs for this week are from the Republic of Benin, as we like saying, but I was informed correctly that it's actually not Benin. It is...
It's Bini.
Benin.
Yes, see, people who know. Yes, that was a studious silence so that you guys could fill in the gaps.
Oh, okay.
Yes, it was,
Sorry. Next time we'll, be on the ball.
Now, remember, one of the things that characterizes West Africa had many kingdoms. Lucrative, huge kingdoms that sprawled one to go from the other. This particular country was, until 1975, even known as Dahomey. Okay? But prior to that was a kingdom. Now, what was better known for, I was going to say notorious for, among the wars that they had captives. They contributed significantly to the transatlantic slave trade. Okay, I'll leave it there. Now the proverb. Before you ask a man for clothes, look at the clothes he is wearing.
Before you ask a man for clothes, look at the clothes he's wearing.
Yes.
Dimas, what's your interpretation of this one?
My interpretation is that you cannot give what you do not have.
Yeah. You can't, eh?
Yeah.
He's actually not wrong, given that his name is a biblical one. It is spoken of the early apostles that they not only gave of what they have, but they also gave of themselves.
Right.
Yes.
Right. It's our city. It's our.
Yes.
Okay. So the David Maraga task force is formed. It had how many members was it given?
It had many members from different constituencies, from the police, from IPOA, from National Police Service Commission, from civil society. So it had very many members, and really collected views from a wide array of Kenyans, police officers, and went to every county to collect views. Yes.
Broadly, what are the terms of reference?
The terms of reference was to look at reforms in police, the prisons, and NYS, and then to perhaps look at the reforms that need to be made. So it had to do with welfare and also operations, and what laws or policies that needed to be changed so that they would function better as the formations that they were. Yeah.
Why?
Remember that when the current president came in to power, there had been really a weaponization of police in terms of using them for political ends. we can only suspect that perhaps and other reasons that this was done was the loss of the two consultants for the Kenya Kwanza team who disappeared, basically. Remember, just before that, we had a lot of disappearances within the police. Blamed on the police. We had the Rivayala bodies being found in gunny bags, and so on and so forth. And so part of the manifesto was that they would look into policing. And I guess that was why they went into that. There have been issues with prison reforms. The prison reforms that came with Mudi Awori were very transformational, but it sort of ended there. And so they also needed to look into how prison officers are treated, how they are paid, and how they operate. Yeah.
The report is out now.
The report is out. We got the executive summary. The final report is not out to the public, even to civil society, because it had certain, this is what we are told, it had certain details that may endanger national security. For example, the weapons that needed to be procured for policing. Remember, our police deal with complex issues from money laundering, terrorism. We hear every day, not really every day, but almost every month, of IED attacks in the border regions. And so they really work in perilous situations, and sometimes letting the public know of the tools that they have may endanger national security.
So broadly speaking, from the executive summary of this report, what is David Maraga telling us? Is he telling us that our security systems, our police service has been okay? Or is he telling us that there have been issues in our police service that need to be addressed as a matter of urgency?
To be honest, the Maraga report is very blunt. It is not very diplomatic in terms of telling us that there is a lack of visionary leadership in the National Police Service. The National Police Service is led by the Inspector General. The National Police Service Commission has a chairperson and commissioners. One of the first recommendations is that the commissioners have a negotiated exit, that they go home, because the current commissioners, according to the report, surrendered their mandate to the executive and to the National Police Service. Be that as it be, it also says that the police service itself lacks visionary leadership, has recommendations as to the appointment of the IG, tells us to go back to the initial state when we passed the new constitution. The first recommendation was that we needed to have an IG who is independent of the executive, who does his or her work without regard of the regime, but does work with regard to the constitutionalism and human rights, and actually also his officers. And so during that time, the National Police Service Act provided that the National Police Service Commission would advertise, shortlist, interview, and then forward a name to the president. The first reforms that happened in the policing side was the Security Laws Amendment Act, which took us back to the situation where the police Inspector General was beholden to the president, because it repealed that part of the involvement of the National Police Service and returned the appointing authority to the president, purely without any interview, without any vet, not real vetting, because there is this vetting in Parliament, but it's usually a formality. Yes. Another thing.
So this one now, Maraga is telling Ruto to cede that authority back to the National Police Service Commission.
Yes.
Same Ruto who was deputy president in 2014.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And remember, during that Security Laws Amendment Act, and the guise of the act was, Kenya is being attacked by terrorists, we need to really take back security. But it was really to usurp the constitutional gains that had been gotten. You know, there are theories of policing. One of the theories is intelligence-based policing. The other one is regime-based policing, and the other one is community-based policing. They usually say a combination of community and intelligence-based policing is the best. But what we see is regime policing, where the police are there to cater to the needs of the powerful and the regime, and deals very badly with anyone who threatens the regime. And if we go back to our history, every time the civil unrest or whatever, people are demanding something. So in the 90s, when the clamor for more democratization, and in the 2000s, you remember after the elections, the 2017 elections, or before the 2017 elections, the IBC protests, you saw how the Kenyans who were protesting were dealt with. And we also saw that last year, during the Maandamano. And so how do we now change policing from regime-based policing to really fidelity to the Constitution, to the sovereign people of Kenya?
Okay. Yeah. So essentially what we're looking at now is reform within the police service.
Yes.
Right? As has been alluded to before, we have seen police reforms take place in this country. Well, all right. We have seen the establishment of reports. We have seen, or we've heard, that reforms have taken place. We have seen it named a service originally from a force, whether it was mentally or otherwise, to take away that feeling that it was force and that was actually people who were there to take care of the citizenry. Essentially what we're asking now is reforms 2.0, or in this case maybe 4.0. Okay? And say that, look, we have seen over time that things perhaps could have gotten worse. And that as a result of this is what is happening in the country. People do not feel safe. People would feel threatened. People don't see the police service as a safe space to go to, but feel under threat. What do you think the appetite is? Because it would be very sad to say all of this work has been done, because also the assumption is that there was research that took place, there were questions that were asked, and then this report came about, right? Then there is the hope that the suggestions that have been put into the report would then be taken up by authority and then established as law and then implemented. What do you really feel is the appetite for reform to get things working smoothly from end to end within the police service? Is there an appetite? Because if I come to you today and I ask you for help, I must have some kind of expectation, positive expectation that something will be done.
Yes.
So from those who've done the research and put the report together, do you feel that there is an appetite to actually institute or implement some of these reforms which clearly are much needed?
Well, because the reforms are far-reaching in some of the recommendations, we expect some resistance from within the system. If you've been following Kenyan politics, you'd realize that after the 2010 constitution, almost every attempt at reforms or changes for example, in the judiciary, in the constitutional commissions, for example, the Auditor General was trying to take us back to the situation where we had an all-powerful executive. We are happy that this is an initiative that was started from the executive level. And so we think that there could be political will for this. But the question is, will we get that, will that translate into political will within the police service itself? Because it makes a very stark indictment on the police service leadership. Are they going to step back and allow the reforms to happen? It makes recommendations of fresh vetting. Right? You remember Kenya went through a police vetting process that began with the chairperson of the National Police Service Commission being delivered a head, like a severed head. And so that tells you the stakes. So we can't pretend that the stakes are not high. The stakes are high, and so it's up to us really, Kenyans, as the customers of the police officers themselves, because whenever we have a dysfunctional leadership, dysfunctional National Police Service Commission, the people who end up suffering are actually the police officers.
Yep.
Yes. Because if your human resource is not dealt with properly, it means that it's those who can pay their way through are the ones who get promoted, who get transferred to lucrative areas, in terms of geographical areas and also in terms of being taken to traffic police, for example.
I think let's just call a spade what it is, right? All the time we have seen the executive, the government, those in leadership, coming up with, let's look at, police and see how we can improve their welfare. They look at it from how they can help that police officer just be better. We give them a second pair of shoes. We say instead of
new uniform,
change uniform colors.
We change the color of the uniform. We say, okay, so you guys, instead of living in these Mabati shacks, what we're going to do now, we'll have a contract to build some couple of houses where you'll all share in those houses. We haven't really seen political goodwill in addressing this. The push to have police reforms was a civil society and citizens push that ended up in the constitution, that ended up in now this entire revetting of all police officers, of creation of the structure of the National Police Service, of an independent Inspector General of Police and such. But we saw an immediate clawback of this. Immediate. Where the civil society was involved in recruiting the first IG of police, David Kimayo, we saw what happened to him. He was... An entire state machinery was used to basically just reduce and ridicule the man.
And his deputies.
Publicly, and his deputies. So that when David Kimayo was removed from office, everybody was like, yeah, but that guy. Yet this is somebody who had gone through a proper vetting and recruitment process. He had been found to have been suitable to head this thing. He had credentials to be the IG of police in a time when everybody was looking at who's going to be the IG. But he was completely rubbished. And thereafter, the president took the power to be appointing the IGs of police and moving them. After you've served IG, I'll make you the CAS. After you've served as IG, I'll reward you. Just go home. We'll sort you out. We'll sort out your medical bills. Now you're IG, your engineer. I'll be calling you. So the person who's in charge of the police is the Minister for Interior. It's the president. There's no goodwill. This David Maraga report, you tell me how all this boldness shall actually be implemented. Tell me how.
And whether it complements the current political establishment or whether it provides the sort of pushback they feel they don't need. Because every time we've had a powerful police service or force, it meant we had an authoritarian and a new authoritarian government, and the police commissioner represented that power, the absolute nature of that power. So they were powerful. But now, with the devolution, with the new constitution, we seem to be at crossroads. There seems to be a conflict. There seems to be the need to claw back the powers that the police force had then. There seems to be the need to constantly use the police force, not service, to ensure that the will of the political establishment of the time is enshrined. And so the service that the police are mandated to provide suddenly goes out of the window because it's definitely not a priority.
Well, and so in the last month, where we have been, civil society has been brought into a few gatherings by Interior, by one development partner working for Interior, basically trying to fast track these reforms. I can admit that we have seen movement at that level. We have not seen any gestures from the Inspector General himself, being the leader of the National Police Service. We have not had anything from the National Police Service Commission. And so Yes, it's going to be a challenge, but I always want to live being optimistic. That
why do you want to be optimistic?
I want to be optimistic because I don't want to live in doom and gloom.
But if the reality is doom and gloom, where do you expect to live other than in that so-called doom and gloom? I don't think there's doom and gloom, if you ask me. But I know we're going on to a break, so I'll hold my thoughts.
Okay, let's come back after this. It's 29 minutes to 8. Dimas Kiprono is our guest this morning. He's the acting executive director at ICJ Kenya, that's the International Commission of Jurists. We are discussing the David Maraga Task Force on police reforms. They have released the report, and as we've just discussed a bit of the executive summary, he says, Dimas, that it's blunt, it's not diplomatic. He says there is lack of visionary leadership at the helm of the National Police Service. The National Police Service commissioners who are presently in office need to go home. Find a way of just sending them home. Fanya hivi, si unaweza kuwa ambassador hapa, something like that. The boss of the National Police Service, of course, then ends up having to leave. But then there are other recommendations that they've made. We'll look at those as well and see which can actually be implemented, which ones would be beneficial to the police and to the citizens, which can be implemented immediately. We'll be back shortly.
Oh, finally! It's my Standard Courier delivery.
At Standard Courier, we know that your time is valuable. That's why we guarantee swift and efficient deliveries to your doorstep every time. Give us a call on 0793 599 684 or schedule your next delivery by visiting our website www.standardmedia.co.ke/courier. Trust Standard Courier Service for all your courier needs. We deliver with pride.
If you want to get on the road less traveled and see those wonderful hidden away places that are off the beaten track, what do? Trade in your travel agents? Buy a bigger and better map? None of the above. Because soon, the Nairobian will become the Nairobian Extra and give you TNX rated travel live.
I've got a plan to make my investment sizzle hotter than a Sunday barbecue grill. ICEA Lion has a plan for everyone. Talk to us today for a plan that's right for you. Or visit icealion.co.ke. ICEA Lion, what's your plan?
Looking for your favorite KTN station and just can't seem to find it? Well, you can watch all KTN channels on Pang. From the latest bulletins on KTN News Channel 5X0, heartwarming stories on KTN Home Channel 104, insightful agricultural content on KTN Farmers Channel 176, to the best of entertainment on KTN Burudani Channel 170. We have it all. Grab your remote, tune in to Pang, and enjoy the variety of content we've prepared for your enjoyment.
Sunny conditions in Nairobi this morning is 16 degrees. We'll see highs of 26 and highs of 26 as well. And a sunny Nakuru at 16. It's 15 and sunny in Nyeri, highs of 27. And we'll see highs of 25 in a sunny Eldoret at 12. 28 sunny in Mombasa. And at 28 it's sunny in Malindi. 19 and sunny in Kisumu with highs of 29. And in Kakamega we'll see highs of 29, where it's currently sunny at 18. Kampala is cloudy at 17, highs of 29. And Mogadishu Dar es Salaam will see highs of 32, where it's mostly cloudy at 27. Johannesburg is cloudy at 13 with highs of 26, while at 28 it's mostly sunny in Mogadishu with highs of 33. It's 14 and sunny in Addis Ababa with highs of 24, and we'll see lows of 12. Looking into Lagos, it's partly cloudy at 28 with highs of 33, and clear at 26 in Kinshasa, going to highs of 34 and lows of 25.
Spice up your life.
Little dots of holdups of traffic on the Eastern Bypass this morning coming into the city via way of Outer Ring. And there's traffic coming off of Cabanas going towards Outer Ring, rather North Airport Road. So that's pretty busy where we look at it. And if we're looking at Outer Ring along the way, you see traffic coming in from Manyanja Road as well as Kangunda Road. And the Thika Superhighway is thick with traffic heading towards the Pangani underpass. And there's Limuru Road doing the thing this morning. Wangari Maathai is actually jam-packed all the way through, connecting with what's coming off of Chiromo and then getting into the city via way of Museum Hill. So that's all doing the thing right about now. And if you're coming off of Raila Odinga Way as you get through to Ngong Road at the roundabout to the city mortuary, that's going to pile up soon. You know what? The Southern Bypass has no traffic. Do with that information what you'd like. And then let's talk on SpiceFM KE on X hashtag, The Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
We prepared a report on police reforms. The executive summary has been made public. We are hosting Dimas Kiprono, who's the acting executive director at ICJ Kenya, to discuss that report. What else does it recommend, apart from those two, at the leadership of the National Police Service?
So, apart from leadership, the report also speaks to corruption. And we know corruption is one of the big things in Kenya. It's everywhere, but especially in police, especially if you look at the TI indices on corruption, it usually puts police at number one in corruption. And it really admits that the service is very corrupt, that it interferes with business. For example, the Inspector General a few months ago admitted that some of the officers were trying to give him the returns. You know, the returns are the monies that are collected every day from bars and businesses operating in different areas. But the theory is that the money usually goes up. We don't know how high it goes, but that is the theory. So,
but he was denying that it reaches his desk.
He said that he refused.
But surely you didn't expect him to accept that it does, did you?
Actually, yes. It's when he comes to me every day.
Whether it does or not.
These are his words, and he refused.
We do not have any choice but to believe him.
So let me understand this. So that with the claims that were made, that certain amounts of money would come to him as terms of the returns, was the question then posed to him to confirm or deny whether this money actually came to his desk? Was that question posed?
No.
What happened?
The context of this was an anti-corruption gathering at the Kenya School of Government, and as part of basically a statement in support of the assertion that there is corruption in Kenya, he said that he has been offered. Yes, but this is something every Kenyan sees on the roads.
Yes,
we see it in the bars around where we live, where police come in the evenings and take something from the businesses.
So what does it recommend about corruption?
It recommends, first of all, the abolition of the traffic unit, and removal of traffic stops, and basically replacing them with mobile units. That would from time to time, if there's a security issue.
So what do they be called if they're not under traffic department? They're under what? Mobile department?
They will be under the various precincts where the road passes.
Do they recommend technology?
Technology is one of the big recommendations. Yes. And having been at the National Council on Administration of Justice meeting yesterday, this was discussed a lot in terms of how do we remove cash from policing.
Do you really think cash is the problem?
I think there are so many problems. It's layered. The first problem is for you to get into the police, you may have to pay something, which means that you went in as a businessman. For you to be promoted or taken to a certain area, you have to give something, or if you don't give something, you have to repay to whoever took you there.
And Dimas, you're not paying to air, you're paying to somebody is taking that money.
Yes.
So it's a system.
It's systemic. It is systemic.
Yeah.
In fact, this is something that we also in civil society struggle with. How do you change the minds? How do you change the mindset? How do you disincentivize a whole system from this? Because we know, because we work with police officers, we know that there are certainly good police officers who do their work, who sacrifice for the good of Kenyans. But we also know that it's difficult to work within a system that makes certain demands of you.
But is it the system? I mean, this matter that we're discussing becomes rather pointed because we're dealing with a specific unit called the police service. But remember, in this service, they're called disciplined, for part of the disciplined service of forces for a reason. Authority in this particular establishments work in the unquestioned fashion of authority, meaning when you're given an order, ordinarily you obey. It's how this thing works, and that's the reason why they are able to do what they do. Now, you tell me, in many of these cases, yes, we are told of the demand side of it where they demand, okay? But then there is the supply side where we offer, okay? We are trading. There's the inconvenience of the law taking effect. I am overspeeding. Clearly, I'm doing 200. I should be doing 80. I know. The inconvenience of going to court. So, we discuss a middle ground of how that inconvenience can be removed. Or an inconvenience is created. Now, I am talking about something that we see boldly outlined within the police service, but which we have taken. It is ours as Kenyans. We have owned it. It is a national pastime.
So you're saying it's not systemic? It's not a system that encourages corruption, like you've said, an inconvenience.
No. No. But you know, if it was a system...
Are you saying if it was possible for you to have instant justice, instant payment of fines for traffic infractions,
yes,
you would still bribe a cop?
Yes, you would. You'd a discount. You want 5,000, me, I've got 2. Instead of writing it down, why don't I give you the 2 because I've paid and I just go. I'm simply saying it's our mindset. We think like that as Kenyans. Now, this is something we have to address directly because it is so normalized that it isn't even an issue. So we kick a fuss because there's this moral contradiction we have because we are a Christian nation and we believe in God and we go to church and mosques and we are inherently good people. That conflict arises, so we speak out against corruption, but we participate in it. Our religious institutions and the process of electing our leaders is part and parcel of this. You should see what goes on. In these ecclesiastical bodies, you'd be, well, I wouldn't be amazed. You probably know. But I'm simply saying, even as we discuss these reports, this is sugarcoating, this is window dressing. Why don't we just have this very honest conversation about what we are as a people and how utterly nonsensically rotten we've become and how we have embraced corruption as part and parcel of our daily lives. Let's start there and then let's see how we move out of it.
So this report should basically be saying, let us put targets.
Yes.
To reduce by this much by this time,
or let's legalize this thing, okay? And we say policemen are allowed to negotiate for, so we won't call it bribes for offences, but we
for
services rendered.
With digital tools, we can get to something similar to what you're saying, but if we get actuaries to look at our fine system and to make it so that it's not really punitive, it's something that any driver can afford, And then at what point, because I know in certain jurisdictions outside Kenya, you can find a situation where someone has up to 50 parking tickets. Yeah, but at the end of the day, you ask yourself, this is getting too expensive, right?
Can I assist you with a thought?
Yeah.
You talked about digitalizing this service.
Yeah.
All right, let's say first offense, you're overspeeding, it is 2,000 shillings. You can ask friends to Changa, you'll pay the 2,000. And you pay it online. Automatically, the policeman who has written this thing down automatically gets 20% of that to his account immediately. So the more people you arrest and the more money the government gets, the higher your commission. It automatically makes it a business. So you will want to do your duty because you know you're going to get your bit anyway. Now, there'll be those rogue individuals, they always are, who will want to take everything. But I'm simply saying, this thing of trying to pretend that we have a situation that only needs a little tweaking here, removing this so that they can become ambassador to Pakistan, and that nothing changes. It's the same discussion.
You want us to legitimize extortion?
I want us to
so
put
because
a
cop has a target, yes, he will come and find a mistake on you. Wewe hii miwani yako yoni mbele. Fine.
Yes. I prefer that, because then I'll say, take me to court.
There is a book by one scholar called Alice Hill, and it talks about African presidents and their police commissioners. And part of the theory that she puts forward is that because the police have been told your work is to protect the regime, as long as the regime is okay, then you can do all the collection that you want. And that is part of if you look at most African countries, you find that problem is there.
It's a give and take.
Yeah, it's a give and take. We've had moments in our history. I remember after the Kibaki regime came in, where Kenyans were the ones demanding that police officers behave well, they would make citizens arrests. You know, there was that moment.
We had hope then.
Yeah, that hope quickly disappeared.
It was extinguished.
Yeah, it was extinguished. And so I think there is a way that the powers that be, the police, can extinguish hopes. We had digital OBs set up in certain police stations as a pilot project. That digital OB system would have eradicated some of the things that we see in police stations, where on weekends 1,000 people are arrested and then 100 people end up going to court. What happened in between? You know, those are the things that would have helped. But you know what? Those things don't work anymore.
You know something? Yeah. They actually do work. If they didn't work as much as we sometimes say, the system would have collapsed. It actually works. You see, there is a way in which it is balanced, all right? And the balance is the problem, because we then don't look at the right and wrong, we look at the excesses. When there's an excess, when we say, no, this shouldn't happen, okay? It's like, say for instance, the complaint that Uber drivers have, I travel by taxi every day. I was told I shouldn't say Uber because I'm advertising a certain app, cab service. They complain that county security officials are by far the most exorbitant in terms of their demands. They demand a lot of money from you. And they say, the traffic is fine. They'll take 100 bob, 200 bob. That's acceptable. Those fellows start with 5,000 going onwards. Now, we've accepted the 100 is okay. We've accepted the 200 is okay. We are protesting the 5,000.
We have been conditioned to accept the 100 is okay. We should reject even the 100.
I agree completely. You see, even this thing has agreed with this.
Dilmas.
Yes.
Does the report recommend anything about the welfare of the individual officers working in the police and prison service?
Yes. Let me talk about, the report is about 500 pages. And so...
that's the executive summary?
No, the executive summary is smaller. But I'm just telling you that we concentrated on the police part for obvious reasons. For the police, there has been an issue of welfare. There has been an issue of mental health. The report speaks to the need of comprehensive health insurance in the police service to ensure that they and their families are taken care of in terms of health services, and earmarks mental health to be part of this insurance. Yeah. And so that
what we are saying is that currently police do not have a comprehensive medical cover.
Yes, their medical cover is very problematic. You may go and your registration is not acknowledged, or that the service is not available at that time. So yes, at the moment there is a problem in terms of health. In terms of mental health, the mental health is there have been attempts to have trainers of trainees in terms of mental health. They've domiciled it within the chaplaincy unit. And I usually say that mental health issues are not spiritual issues. Yeah, these are medical issues. We have all witnessed the murder suicides that have happened in the service, where an officer within the barracks kills another officer or a loved one and kills themselves. And so there is a mental health crisis that needs to be taken care of, and it still feeds back into human resource, because if you're being frustrated by your boss, and we know that the nature of policing is quite it's not like any other job. One moment you're called to pick up a body on the road, another moment you are dealing with a murder case. You have to internalize the case, then go to court and explain what you saw. It really needs a lot of debrief, a lot of mental, psychosocial care.
So does the report go deep into this, or does it just mention it like, we need to take care of the mental health of our police officers?
So because I haven't seen the 500 plus pages, I can't say whether it has gone deep enough. But usually, what I know about the discipline forces is that they and such reports that just doesn't really go deep into the issue. I've not seen that in any recommendation on the separation between the chaplaincy and real health issues, right? Yeah.
I believe that all of this really does stem from, because look, I think we can talk about systems and we can talk about penchant for, corruption. We can talk about just having an innate desire to be lawless. The value that we place, and it's individuals make communities. It's not some kind of extraterrestrial force that comes into place it's individuals that make up communities. And then I think we really do need to go to the spirit of all of this and ask, what value do we place on life? The higher the value that we place on life and the protection of the same, I think then it becomes monumentally easier to then see things like this being implemented. And I don't think that we would have had as serious an issue, whether it's the police force today, whether it's whichever authority tomorrow, whomever it is. The value that we place on life, and I think those are the questions that need to be asked on a one-to-one and say, really, what kind of value do you place? And that's why when Titi was giving the example of saying, here we are saying, we like it. That's what we do. We expect it to be that way. There are other jurisdictions whereby an election, for example, is carried out by volunteers. And what is expected is that you're going to do the right thing. Can you imagine that it is expected that you're going to do the right thing? In fact, the entire system depends on you doing the right thing, and you have that value that you've placed in it and said, you know what? I'm being depended upon to get this thing done right. So I'm going to do it because I have placed value in doing the right thing. And I think until and unless we then have a realization of what that value is, it's going to be very difficult. I mean, and it bleeds my heart, because a lot of work, a lot of man hours, a lot of research has been put into this to pinpoint the problem. But in order to change the situation, our value system comes into question, and to say, what value do we really place on things like this? Individualism over community? And unless we answer those questions, we can write reports for years to come and pray to whoever above that they will be implemented and things will change. But if we don't look at the value that we place on life and getting things done right, we may be writing reports for centuries.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
What do you think would happen if, say, for instance, we have county bosses whom we elect? I think you know I'm going with this one. we were allowed to elect our police chiefs?
Well, just because of our campaign financing issues, I think we would get likely the worst of the worst.
Wash guy becomes IG of police.
Yeah.
That would be good. You know why? We then know exactly who we are dealing with. You know from the get-go who we are dealing with. And more importantly, this person knows that they have to at least pander to the public because they owe the public their job.
Oh, that they'll do. Mm-hmm. It's just that now no wash person will be arrested in this country.
You know something? Already they're not being arrested, okay? As we speak.
Oh, we're talking about now.
Yeah, so I mean, have you heard of any being arrested?
Did they say they were wash people?
Yeah, I mean, this wash is phantom. Do they even exist? I mean, I keep hearing of it. I mean, they wash money, they clean money, they do all sorts of things. The point I'm getting at is here. There is no one approach to this problem because this problem is also multifaceted. A multi-pronged approach to it is what is needed. A 500-page report guarantees that thing will not be read, guarantees it will not be actioned. Now, unless you pick a piece that you think you want to look at, police, housing. Look at this terrible saga. Housing project began to you which decade? Okay? Left, right, circle in, circle out. Before you know it, 7 people own it. Now you're thinking, what? I'm simply saying it is clear to me that those who are in political leadership have no wish whatsoever to improve the lot of the police. They do not wish to. Because you improve the lot of the police, they'll become sober-minded, they'll actually seek to do what they're supposed to do. But so long as they're groveling, living in pigsties, a whole family is separated from another one with a dirty-looking curtain.
And that's okay.
It is supposed to be okay. And this is the person you want every day to go and pick up dead bodies, rotting bodies, do all sorts of things. This person is already mentally tortured and tormented before they even go out.
So if the political leadership will not improve the welfare of the police, what do?
We get rid of the political leadership. Not just get rid of them like we like saying, well, we vote in new ones who will do the same thing. Getting rid of them doesn't mean you vote them out. It means you stamp your foot down and say, this we are not going to do. These are the steps we are going to take. We saw a sliver of it in 2002. Michuki leads and says, this is what we are going to do. The Matatu says, we are not. The public say, we are supporting, we'll walk. We'll walk. Walking, first of all, is healthy. Suddenly, there is change in an industry that you did not think there would be change.
Yeah.
And there was change. Getting a passport in this country was a nightmare. This thing you're thinking here, it was a nightmare before. Suddenly, a new government comes in, you walk into that place and you're being asked, how can we assist you?
It's a nightmare today.
It's a huge nightmare today. We've gone back.
Yeah. And basically the lesson is that once you let things start sliding, they ratchet up and it becomes unbearable. And then now we start basically talking about how it may be our fault.
Yeah,
you know,
gets out of control and we have nothing else to do. But once we get to internalize more of the report, please come back.
Yeah.
Let's keep discussing this. Let's keep educating the people on what the report has said. Let's discuss what's workable, what's viable, what's not. And then we demand for its implementation. Asante for joining us. Dimas Kiprono is the Acting Executive Director at ICJ Kenya. We've been discussing the Justice Retired David Maraga Police Task Force Reforms Report. Good morning, 8 a.m.
Good morning, this is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Attorney General Justin Muturi has warned the Kenya Revenue Authority against deducting the controversial housing levy, citing the lack of a legal framework to support the deduction. In a letter addressed to KRA Commissioner General Humphrey Watanga, the AG pointed the taxman to the ruling delivered by the Court of Appeal on January 26, 2024 that upheld a High Court decision which declared the housing levy unconstitutional. A three-judge bench had last year ruled in favor of petitions filed before the High Court challenging Section 84 of the Finance Act 2023 on grounds that the levy was discriminatory and a direct violation of Article 10 of the Constitution of Kenya. Now, those seeking to pursue medical courses at the Kenya Medical Training College have until March 4th to apply. This is after Kenya Universities and Colleges Central Placement Services indefinitely extended the application deadline following an uproar among applicants, teachers and parents over portal hitches. The medical training institution for the first time onboarded onto the COOPS system various medical courses under the Precipice, that is the certificate and diploma and in-service upgrading and higher diploma programs. Public Health Principal Secretary Mary Muthoni, in a statement, announced the commencement of the application for the March 2024 intake, assuring that KMTC is committed to working closely with COOPS to ensure prompt placement of Precipice students. The Kenya Medical Research Institute has rolled out a 10.3 million shillings mobile mortuary aiming to enhance its research efforts focused on child mortalities. Speaking at the KEMRI Center for Global Health in Kisumu, KEMRI Acting Director General Elijah Songok highlighted that the mobile mortuary has proved a vital asset in the government agency's research owing to high numbers of community deaths recorded among children under the age of 5.
Procedure van has to take samples from a dead child within 24 hours, because if the child has to be attended to, or if we actually take samples beyond 24 hours, the child would have decomposed, so we will not be able to actually get the actual pathogens or possible causes of death.
The one of the countries they want to create is in Asia, in Bangladesh, they want to Latin America and other African countries. So it's very critical that the research that we have got from this is really great indeed, as well to inform the whole world that how critical this particular facility is.
The van, equipped with all the necessary tools to conduct an autopsy, has so far carried out more than 1,000 post-mortem examinations, pivoting the country's efforts in eradicating child mortalities. Now, coffee farmers have welcomed the government's move to scale up reforms and development in the subsector through a knowledge-sharing program with their colleagues from Colombia, one of the leading top producers of coffee globally. The farmers, together with members of the visiting Colombian National Federation of Coffee Growers, toured the Coffee Research Institute in Ruiru, Kiambu County, for a day-long familiarization visit on farming practices for the crop. During the tour at Caldros CRI, the teams were trained on research processes, coffee propagation, selection for coffee berry disease resistance varieties, varietal conversion, coffee establishment, management of coffee canopy, and soil fertility management. Now, Kenya's proactive stance in addressing non-communicable diseases has been highlighted at the global high-level technical meeting on NCDs in humanitarian settings in Copenhagen, Denmark, led by Principal Secretary for Medical Services Hari Kimtai. The Kenyan delegation played a pivotal role in the discussions. Now, Kimtai underscored Kenya's commitment to tackling the increasing burden of NCDs, which account for over 41% of total deaths and 50% of inpatient hospital admissions in the country. Kenya's comprehensive strategy includes implementing the second National Strategic Plan 2021-2026 and developing emergency care guidelines to ensure continuity of care during crisis. Now, smoking, vaping or eating marijuana is linked to a significantly higher risk of heart attack and stroke, even if a person has no existing heart conditions and did not smoke or vape tobacco. This is according to a new study. Now, while both daily and non-daily users had an increased risk of heart attack and stroke compared to non-users, stroke risk rose 42% and the risk of heart attack rose 25%. If cannabis was used daily, the risk climbed as the number of days of use of marijuana rose. This is News. I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
Thank you very much, Eric, and it's good to be at the Situation Room.
Always a pleasure coming here. This is the most challenging interview panel in Kenya. You guys are very well informed, and as you can see, Charles today, very philosophical.
To be poor in this country is the greatest sin you can commit, not just from a legal perspective, but from life generally. It is very, very skewed.
We just heard on the floor of Parliament, just most recently, a leader within the ODM saying that sisi ni ng'ombe is a baba.
Yeah.
Which means that you are willing to be milked dry. Hapo.
You cannot force me to believe. I'll give way. If it's land that I'm told to return to you, I will. Okay? Because the court has said so. But I'll continue saying, watu wamenirusha. That's all that I'm doing.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
.5 Spice FM. Kisumu.
All right, traffic hour, and it's coming in heavy from the Thika Superhighway, but not too crazy. As you come past Survey, you'll be done with your service lane, so you have to stick with inching into the city. Also on Kambu Road, some traffic coming in towards Muthaiga Square. Wangari Maathai Way this morning has been quite sticky. Has traffic coming in towards Museum into the CBD, and then also going out towards Westlands on Parklands Road. So that is a little mess happening right there. It's very, very busy coming in from Kileleshwa out towards Mzima Springs and then on to James Gishoro, which now spills over Wayaki Way towards the Red Hill Link Road. So that is very, very busy right now. So is Wayaki Way all the way into Westlands and then out towards the CBD. Gong Road is busy. So is parts of the Raila Odinga Way coming in from Langata Road. So all watching this, see what happens as we get through towards the end of traffic hour. Talk to us in the meantime on SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag The Situation Room.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room.
8 minutes after 8.
The only
Good morning
way to
and
start.
welcome to the third hour of The Situation Room. We thank you very much for choosing this as the way to start your day every day. And even for everybody who puts in their comments on social media, on X, on Facebook, on YouTube, where we are live streaming the show, those who continue their conversations on other platforms, on WhatsApp groups, and those who meet us on the road and they say, you know, I saw this conversation and I think you asked a good question, but I think you missed out on a certain point. It's important to get all this feedback. The whole intention of The Situation Room is to start and maintain national conversations on things that matter to our daily life. Whether it's governance, it's policy, whether it's about education of our children, whether it's about, you know, the cost of food, whether it's about the cost of health and what we need to do to ensure that we're living a better life as the citizens and visitors to Kenya. We remind you about EcoBank, which also is doing the same thing and thinking so Africa as one large continent that has many people that are entrepreneurial, that want to trade across borders, that do not want to see these barriers in border. How can we help reduce barriers of trade? And EcoBank comes up with a platform.
Exactly. Solution, platform. Says, you know what? How about you open an account where you are today? And then you become, you know, this person who needs to move around different countries on the continent. And so they've said, all right, we'll make this platform simultaneously run across 35 different African markets. And that's what they've done today. So that it doesn't matter where you go, so long as you're in one of those 35 African markets, you just continue to flow with your business. You continue to flow with the responsibilities that you have that have a financial, need, and you can go ahead as though you never left.
Yep.
So you plug in, you play, and you can pay your bills, you can continue with your business, you can make sure things like your logistics are sorted out just because you are plugged into that one platform. And it's for 4 countries out of Africa as well. And they've realized, you know what, it's a better way. And because of that, it's a better Africa.
Better Africa. A better life for you if you have a plan. Do you have a plan? Well, think of whatever you'd like to do. Think of what you'd wish to do in the near to medium to long future. What is it that you're thinking of? What are you planning to do? What are you wishing to do? Talk to ICA Lion. They're experts in helping you come up with a plan, helping you create a solid plan, and also helping you guide you in how to walk through the plan to full realization. Ndio City?
Kabisa.
Sindio?
Yes, that people say these things anecdotally, and sometimes it's true. If you fail to plan, you're planning to fail.
Kabisa. Kabisa. Talk to ICA Lion. Plan at icealion.co.ke. That's the email address. icealion.co.ke. That's the website. ICA Lion. That's the social media. They're across social media platforms. On all of them, including TikTok, you will find ICA Lion. They're saying, let's talk to everybody. City, did you participate in the Kengen IPO?
Once upon a time.
It was once.
It was a long time ago. It was. And the shares were profitable.
But a couple of shares.
Yes, then I did actually. I used to participate in those commercial adventures. I no longer do. And even when I did sell what I had, I did make some money.
You did, huh?
Yeah, I did. And I didn't even understand Kengen as I do now.
No.
Yes. And why I understand it well, because there's somebody who preceded you who happened to have been a very good friend of mine. And it is him who actually, a gentleman called Ednah. He made me understand what Kengen does.
Right.
Before, I thought it was a department in Kenya Power. Yes.
Yep. And so when Eddie took the Kengen to the market and listed, and many people participated in it, there were many who understood what it was. Others were seeing the potential. It's about power. In his timber, it's all right. I will put my money into it. I'll buy shares. And many of us bought shares. Going with the buzz, with the wave, everybody's doing IPO. Go and buy the shares.
They were really very good shares.
And then you actually end up with a very, very good share. For example, this morning, Kengen has made an announcement that it has announced a commendable half-year performance marked by a notable 8.4% surge in net revenue, reaching 24.7 billion shillings for the 6 months ending December 31st, 2023. This NSE-listed energy generator attributed the positive outcome to favorable hydrology and heightened plant efficiency, setting the stage for sustained growth in Kenya's energy sector. The managing director and CEO of Kengen is our next guest. He's engineer Peter Njenga. Engineer, good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation.
Thank you.
That is the bzz, bzz, bzz seat of the situation room. It'll be a shock. Engineer and I were at the engineers convention in Mombasa.
That one.
The one in November last year. I was moderating, and he was, of course, there as an engineer and as CEO of Kenya's biggest energy generator. He participated in a panel conversation. I wasn't the moderator for that one. But the person who was moderating that kept forgetting his name. And that made the moments.
What did he deign to call?
So instead of engineer Peter Njenga, she would call him engineer Waweru.
Oh, just like anything she wanted? Okay.
Yeah, she's forgetting the engineer.
But Waweru is also my name.
Mwaura. So at one point he corrects and says, I am engineer Peter Waweru Njenga. I am the MD and CEO of Kengen. Oh yeah, apologies, engineer. Next
proceeded.
Time, engineer Mwaura. So engineer, karibu sana. We will make sure we get your name right.
Yeah.
Engineer Peter Waweru Jenga.
Yes.
To welcome you to the conversation, City will give you the day's proverb. Yeah.
Yes, our proverbs for the whole of this week come from the country of Benin. Before you ask a man for clothes, look at the clothes he is wearing.
Before you ask a man for clothes, look at the clothes he's wearing. What's your interpretation of this proverb?
Well, thank you very much for having me. That would mean, of course, that you need to associate with the people who you think you are like-minded. Their practices fit your own description of what you would want to be, and that's why you need to look at their clothes before you can actually ask for clothes.
It's always amazing when you ask people for interpretations, because many a time you tell someone something you hadn't thought of, and it's so accurate and it's so apt. Good.
Yep. If you like suits, then ask for clothes from somebody who wears suits.
Yes.
Yeah. That's a very good one. Very good one. Somebody that you're like-minded. So, Engineer, you have announced some good performance for the half year ending December, and this is talking about revenues going up to 24 billion shillings. Who do you make this money from?
Well, maybe before I answer that question, Latiff, I want to introduce myself. You said you don't want to make a mistake. I'm Engineer Peter Owerunjenga, the Managing Director and CEO Kengen, Kenya Electricity Generating Company PLC. And I'm proud today to be the man at the helm, managing this great organization. Kengen is the highest electricity power generating company in Kenya, in fact, in East African region. And coupled with that, we pride ourselves actually that we are the highest geothermal generating company in the region. And when you look at the statistics, if, for example, you want to work out the composition of geothermal power generation in the whole portfolio of many countries, including the largest economies in this world, America, Kenya has the highest generating component of electric energy in the world. So we are very proud to be who we are today. The announcement we have done today is a testament of the journey we have walked. We are proud that, in fact, arising from increase of our revenues from our machines, basically we have said we generate electricity. And that is where we derive most of our revenues. And we have managed our power plants to beyond 90% availability for providing electric energy in this country. And that is the main reason why we believe we are able to do the revenues that we have done over the years. And we are looking forward in future to even generate more revenues. Of course, a number of challenges here and there, but we are working to overcome those challenges. You have seen perhaps in that statement that the profit after tax has reduced. And basically it's because the tax element, the tax expenses went up compared to the same period last year. From 1.4 billion, the tax expenses for this period that we have announced results is 1.8 billion. That will tell you that that is a possible reason why our profit after tax has gone down. But the profit before tax has actually grown by 1.8%. And we are happy of those results. Yes.
You only have one customer, don't you?
Yes. But, going into the future, the opportunities have been opened up. The regulator, EPRA, has recently published regulations where we are now going to be able to supply power directly to customers. And we are looking at that as a very great opportunity so that we can have more customers.
Directly to others, isn't it?
From the generator direct to you. The generator direct to you.
So essentially, what would happen is that the monopoly of your customer, essentially, then would cease to be.
Yeah.
All right.
That's what it means.
So then, you talk about having been able to make profits, having been able to be the number one power generation in the region. Is everything that you produce used by your customer?
Yes. In fact, when you look at the numbers, The installed capacity in this country currently is standing about 3.3 gigawatts.
What does that mean?
3,300 megawatts. The composition of KenGen is 1.9 gigawatts. That's about 60%. And if you look at the demand, the highest demand that has ever been recorded, and I think the highest was recorded in December last year, I think on 19th of December, when the highest demand was at 2170. You can see that we are still not meeting the maximum demand. So everything from KenGen is taken by our off-taker.
Okay. What are the sources of power generation here? What sources are we looking at? And what is being used the most from what you then are able to generate?
I think it's important that we talk about, we have renewable energy. And our portfolio is basically hydro, is the highest composition at 45%. We have geothermal at about 39%. Then we have wind, which is less than 2%. The balance is thermal from the fossil fuels.
Yes.
You know that hydro has really been affected by the weather.
Yes.
The vagaries of weather. Last year, I remember even in the very rainy places, you would go and find that the grass is dry. And if you lit a match, the grass would burn. And that was so bad for us. And at one point, immediately I joined KenGen. I had an opportunity of going to Masenga. And the biggest reservoir was almost drying up. But who is God? Within 2 weeks, the rains came. And again, we were caught up with a challenge of how now do we manage this water that is too much. And I remember we had even to form an emergency team, even at the ministry level, to monitor so that this water, as it goes up, we are able to advise the people downstream that these waters can rise. And in case we have to spill, of course, you know what would happen. The rivers would perhaps break the banks and affect the people who are settled along the river. So we needed to monitor it day in, day out. So we have hydro. And because hydro was the original generating source, the equipment was set many years ago. So they have been fully amortized. So the cost of hydropower is very low. So you look at the way you order, the off-taker normally looks at what is the cost. Hydro is the lowest, come in. Geothermal is the next, come in. Solar is the next, come in. Wind is the next, come in. So that we manage the cost of power to the customers. So our portfolio is hydro, we have geothermal, and we have wind, and we have thermal. We are looking into solar. I'm sure you have noticed I haven't talked about solar. But solar is the next frontier. Everybody is talking about it. And we are also having a project that is in the pipeline to establish a solar power plant among our hydropower plants. You know how that one will work for us?
On top of the dam?
Yeah, if possible, or even on the side, because we have a lot of land on the side. We'll start on that one that is on the side. And what it will do for us is that during the day when there is sun, we use the solar. At night, we use the water. So it will complement each other.
How many thermal plants do you have?
We have 2 thermal plants.
Where are they?
One in Mombasa, Kipevu. That is the biggest. Then we have Muhoroni in Western region.
Why do we need thermal?
Latiff, power, you generate it from one point and you have to transport it to the other point. And if you look at the interconnectivity of the transmission network in this country, and if you have been following the conversation, is that we have a small challenge in the evacuation of power to all the other parts of this country. So, for example, I've told you geothermal is the highest. We are the highest generating country geothermal-wise. But for us to evacuate power from Olkaria in Naivasha, we need big evacuation lines, the transmission lines that we talk about, all the way to Mombasa, where that line is now under construction, almost being completed. And the challenge has been in Mombasa, we don't have, base load power.
What does that mean?
Base load power is, Latiff, base load is that consistent load that customers demand over a period, say, of 24 hours. That there is a minimum power that must always be available. And for you to be able to do that, you must have a reliable source. Reliable sources like, for example, hydro, if we have adequate rains and we have adequate water. Geothermal, which is very consistent. Currently in this country, actually, geothermal is our base load power. Okay. Because it is very consistent. But when you go into solar, for example, when a cloud comes over the solar plant, it goes down. So that you can't use that as base load power. You talk about wind, sometimes depending on weather during the day or during the night, the wind is either very heavy or low. And therefore, again, you cannot rely on that. We call it intermittency or variable renewable sources, wind and solar. So thermal, again, because thermal is a generator. The normal generator you have in your house, if you have one, Latiff, it has consistent power generation, depending on what you are looking at. You put the fuel, and as long as you have adequate fuel, it continues generating that particular power consistently. So in Mombasa, our base load is provided by the thermal. And that's why we have thermal in Mombasa to stabilize the generation in the coast region. The same thing is happening to Western. Although currently Muhoroni is not generating. The power purchase agreement expired, and we are in the process of negotiating on how we can renew it. So again, in the Western, you notice that there is challenges sometimes during peak time when the power demand goes up and then the supply is not available.
Okay.
Yeah.
What then, because we know KenGen obviously is a power generator.
Yes.
What's the difference, or what relationship then exists between KenGen and independent power producers?
They are our competitors.
And where are their sources?
And it's good to have competition. I think if you have no competitor, you don't look for opportunities to improve your performance. So they are a good competitor. And the relationship is that one where we have actually to up our game. That we must provide our reliable, our safe, and competitively priced electric power, every electric energy every other time. So our pricing is normally the best. In terms of pricing, it's better than the independent power producer, and perhaps it's because we have the support of the government. We are able to develop our plans using on-lent loans, which are cheaper. But the independent power producers have to go to the open market to be able to fund their projects. So that is where we are, and we like the competition.
I'm sure you do.
Yes.
So I want to ask this then,
Yes.
because obviously looking at a better price.
Yes.
What you're talking better, of course, for us means if we have to pay less, then it's a better price.
Yes.
Right? And it's a bit sticky, but oftentimes when things have gone off, KenGen would have been blamed, unfortunately, by your customer as the reason behind why,
there's a national blackout.
And it lasted for 2 hours and 59 minutes longer than it actually should have. Whether generators kicked in or not. So where does that relationship happen for where you produce the power to where it is then delivered, and then who's responsible for making sure it reaches to where now, so where your job terminates in terms of producing and delivering? Who then takes over? What relationship then do you have when we now want to play this interesting blame game?
First of all, let me say that we are enjoined at the hip with the energy players in this sector. Power is that commodity that you generate and it has to be used.
Consumed.
Yeah, although we have now technologies where we are talking about storage, but ideally you generate and consume. So you have to work very closely with the people who transmit and with the people who are going to offtake the power. There has to be a very nice synchronization so that you generate, you transmit, it is taken. And that system is interconnected. And if anything happened to a generator, for example, that will be noticed in the whole system. If something happens in the transmission network, it will also be reflected in the whole system. If something happens at the end in the distribution, again, it will be noticed. Because, for example, if you have a distribution power plant, a power station that takes a lot of load and it is off all of a sudden, then it means that we must also reduce the generation to match the demand, because the demand has now gone down. So our systems must be able to talk to each other. And that's why there has to be very good communication between ourselves. The National Control Center will contact our generators and they will tell them, now that we have this sudden drop of this, can you now reduce your generation from this machine or put off this machine? And that is the way they work together. So it is not a blame game. In fact, what we have been saying, whenever there is a blackout, all of us come out. You might have been seeing KPLC on the front line, because they are the ones who have the linkages with their clients and customers. But we are behind, giving them a lot of backup to ensure the moment whatever was the problem has been identified and isolated, then all of us are able now to bring back the systems and synchronize one by one. So we work together.
Let's take a break. It's 29 minutes to 9. Our guest this morning is the Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of the Kenya Electricity Generating Company, KenGen, Engineer Peter Waweru Njenga. We are talking about Kenya's energy sector. And of course, there's been this push, in fact, a national declaration by the President that we shall move into 100% green energy within a few years' time. KenGen, as the largest electricity generator in this country, has got to take a lead on this. And that's what we want to ask him as well. What are you doing about that? We'll be back shortly. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
It's critical that people pay taxes. But then taxation has to have a limit. When you start overtaxing people beyond certain limit, then this is now we call robbery with violence.
We are all struggling, but we don't show. If you're not doing well, shame on you. But you have to say, I'm broke and I'm struggling. We are not okay until everybody is okay.
We are pretending to have political parties. Why don't we just be honest? And we say, these are the Luyas, these are the Kambas, these are the Kikuyus, and we find ourselves in Kenya.
You know, with politics and leadership, no matter what you do, there will always be a complaint. There will always be the assumption that you're either stealing or you're not doing things right. As a leader, don't fear. If you know you're doing the right thing, you've thought about it, you've got an expert advice, do it, then understand later.
This country, we don't need prayers. Prayers is between you and God. Good governance and thinkers who care about the country and not their stomach.
That's what we need.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
All right, so Nairobi, sunny conditions currently at 17. We'll see highs of 26 and highs of 26 as well in a sunny Nakuru. It's 16 and sunny in Nyeri with highs of 27, where 25 will be the high in Eldoret. It's sunny at 14. It's 28 and sunny in Mombasa with highs of 33 and highs of 33 as well in a sunny Malindi at 29. 21 and sunny in Kisumu with highs of 29, while in Kakamega at 20. Currently, we'll see highs of 29. Kampala is cloudy at 20 and Dar es Salaam at 27, experiencing light rain showers at the moment. It's 14 and sunny in Johannesburg with 29 and sunny conditions in Mogadishu. 16 and sunny in Addis Ababa, while in Lagos it's 28 and partly cloudy. It's 26 and mostly sunny in Kinshasa.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. SpiceFM.
Spice up your life.
All right, it's really busy on Raila Odinga Way this morning, and let's look on the eastern side of the city where Landis has packed up all the way to the Kamkunji roundabout. It's been quite crazy on Wangari Maathai today, and it still is. Something is amiss here. Give us a shout in terms of what that is. For now, if you can avoid it, do so. Use another route, probably a longer one to get into the city, but think about that because that's also very busy. It's also busy on Murang'a Road. As you're coming in from the Thika Superhighway, you'll get to Survey, and then because no service lanes, you're going to have to stick with that traffic traffic over the drift and into the city. Kiambu Road reducing in traffic, so yay. Also looking at a little bit of traffic still left on James Gishiro as you get towards Waiyaki Way and skip on over towards the Red Hill Link Road. So that continues. We're still in traffic hour. Let's see what happens in a short while, especially if you know what's going on Wangari Maathai. How about you shout out on Spice FM KE on X? Hashtag The Situation Room.
Spice FM, Malindi. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
Our conversation continues with Engineer Peter Njenga, MD, CEO of Kengen. He's just told us, well, Kenya's installed power capacity is 3.3 gigawatts. Kengen contributes 1.9 gigawatts of that. That's about 60%. So there's some 40% that's provided by other companies, popularly known as independent power producers. We'll talk about that shortly. City, you've got a question for the MD.
You know, what always puzzles me is when I look at hydroelectric power and I look at water, which is in the rivers, and I look at the siltation process that takes place over time when it rains, and so the capacity of the rivers just keeps reducing and reducing. Two questions. One, how often do we desilt our rivers? Because if it rains heavily and that isn't done, clearly there'll be flooding. Mm-hmm. Two, how do you ensure that when we have plenty of water, we conserve as much of it as possible? Now, the second, that's question 1B. Mm-hmm. Question 2, this one really puzzles me. Is there technology to actually harness and store power? You know, forget the batteries. I know there are batteries. I know there's a company called Tesla that has come up with some really heavy duty batteries that are supposed to do this. But I'm looking at this resource we call the sun. Mm-hmm. We have so much of it. And I'm looking at the power that is generated and what we could do with it. Mm-hmm. What am I saying? I'm saying we have an inbuilt solution to our power problems right where we sit. And I'm asking, what are we doing? But I've compartmentalized it in the question that I've asked.
Question number 1, siltation.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much. Siltation. In fact, if you take an example of small rivers in our normal rural places, and where I come from and where I was born and bred and brought up, we had a river. And because of the cultivation activities by the farmers, over time, that is now normal. Or if there is any water that flows, there is just very little. So the same thing happens, even for the rivers that we are using to, harness the water to drive our machines. When you build a dam, of course, it means that that dam, you block the flow of the water, and you understand the chemistry. When the water, stagnates, the debris and whatever and the soils settle. Yeah. So over time, of course, there is a lot of siltation, which means you reduce now the volume of water you're able to store. But the good thing and the good news is that there is technology for carrying out the silting, whether it's on those dams or on the rivers where we're harnessing. But of course, we need a long-term solution. Where does this silt come from? It's from upstream, where the people are carrying out their farming activities. So we normally do what we call a planting of trees to be able to ensure that the run of water does not wash away the soil, and that is an activity that we are very endeared to because we understand what it means to us. It's very expensive, by the way, exercise for carrying out the silting. Very expensive. If you look down your store, maybe you should go and visit Sonu Miriu, where we are currently working very hard to do the desiltation and removing what we call the hippograss. Because of the silt, is some interesting grass that has grown over the reservoir. And we have again to remove it mechanically because there is no any other way of doing it. Just like what happened in Lake Victoria and the hyacinth that normally covers almost the whole of Lake Victoria. So it's a big challenge, but we have to live with it. But we also have to look at long-term solutions by ensuring that we conserve the areas around where water comes from.
Okay. Second question.
Yes. This is about
storage.
The storage of electricity energy.
This resource that we have in so much abundance.
This solar in Africa, and especially in the tropicals, is available 12 hours in a day. Currently, the technology that is available, which is where people are really working on, is the battery storage. That you generate, you move it to a battery. Just the same way you have your phone. You want to charge your battery so that when you're not connected, the phone draws the power from the battery. The other way is if you can harness that solar and use it to pump back the water. The water that went down the turbines and is going downstream. You can also pump it back to the reservoir and reuse it, because it's just being used as a fuel to drive the turbines and generate. So that is something that has to be considered. But of course, when the water is falling down and you want to pump it up, you require a lot of energy to do that, and perhaps that's where you are referring to. It is available.
It is available.
It's available in great quantity. So that is the area perhaps that we need to look at and see how do we utilize that energy to pump back the water.
Can I ask just a third question before we exit?
Yes.
In an organization that has such grave importance to the nation and nation building, what is your research component? Because this is what you do on a daily basis.
Yes.
For you to be able to keep up with the times and to ensure that into posterity, KenGen is alive to the realities of the present and the future. What does your research department look like, and what are the plans that they have for the future?
A lot of research goes on, and perhaps what I should talk about here is, technology is changing very quickly, and we have encouraged our employees to look out for the new technologies that are coming up. We have provided them with the equipment where they can be able to access the internet, access this information. And we organize sessions where employees come up and tell us, there is this new thing that is coming up here. This is the way this country is harnessing this particular innovation, or this is a way we can be able to borrow this particular information and be able to improve on what we do, improve the efficiencies of our machines. For example, now we have realized, the turbines that we built in the early years, for example, the oldest geothermal power plant that was built, the first machine was commissioned in 1981, for example, more than 40 years ago. That technology is already overtaken by events. There is new technology, perhaps, where you have more efficient turbines, more efficient generators that can generate more power with the same amount of steam.
Yep.
And that's what we are doing. We have one of the oldest power plant now. We are pulling it down completely and rebuilding it afresh. And we believe at the end of the day, from the original 45 megawatts, it's now going to give us 63 megawatts. So research has been done, and it has been established with the same steam, it will generate higher amount of power.
And these new turbines are developed originally by KenGen?
Yes.
Or are you
in conjunction with development partners? Yes, we have development partners like JICA from Japan. We have KfW from Germany. Many people who come and help us to develop this.
So are you building the turbine here, or are you building it elsewhere and bringing it to Kenya?
The turbines are built from the manufacturers. These are done outside there. In Japan, in Germany, those are the companies that build these turbines. They are very complicated technology, but they normally come and establish what are the conditions and do their designs and the tests their designs. Yes.
Does KenGen have in its plan, like just going back into what City is asking, a plan to have a proper institution for research and development that then works either with academia or with other private sectors supporting them in terms of even capital, because you make money in investing in a local research and manufacturing plant for technology in energy distribution, no, in energy generation. I ask this because nearly everything that we use in this country is sourced from elsewhere. And this adds to the cost of just installing a machine.
True.
So what are you doing about it?
Let me say this. Last year, I think it was sometimes in September, I had the privilege of going to Japan. And the companies there, the companies who help us to make these equipments, the turbines and the machines, they are very, very happy to come and establish institutions here that we can work with them and be able to do these new technologies from within here. Because every power plant is different. And that's why when we give them the work to do development of any power plant, they have to come here and collect data and go back and do the designs. But it's possible for us to now establish that research and development function and work together with them and be able to do these designs and development of these projects from here.
But engineer, is that a specific item in your plan?
Yes.
Is it there? How much are you dedicating into it? Into saying over the next 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 years, KenGen will support local manufacturing of all technology that's needed for generation of power?
We are still in discussions because some of these research and functions, we are not sure how much it would cost. But there is a deliberate effort to ensure that in everything we do, there is set aside a certain amount for us to facilitate that research. We normally finance our engineers and our technicians to go out there and get to know what are the new technologies that are out there. So there is that commitment. But I think, as you say, it might be important going forward to specifically have a department that carries out research and development in KenGen. And that's something we are going to look at.
I look at the energy mix that we have, and especially what KenGen has. Hydro, those dams that were established many years ago. The latest one is what, Takwa?
Yes, we have Takwa, the hydro.
So these are dams that you inherited from the parent giant Kenya Power. Geothermal was, you initially, 1981, Kenya Power set up its first geothermal plant. And then we have a geothermal development corporation that does the exploration. And you come in the at the end of this exploration to basically just start tapping.
Yes.
When you talk about solar, you have been overtaken by others in the market in development of solar energy. Even REREC has a large solar plant in Garissa. Talk about wind. Your wind turbines are here in Ngong, we see them. There are big companies that are doing multi-billion shilling investment in wind.
Yes.
Not KenGen. In Loyangalani, in Kajiado. KenGen is sort of just being caught up with what you inherited is the same talent that you're using.
Yes.
We have not seen you going into any of these newer ones robustly.
Yes.
Is that not dangerous, bearing in mind that you currently only have 60% control of the installed capacity? This could reduce.
Latiff, let me tell you, it was a strategic decision.
To do what?
To go into geothermal. And I can tell you the benefits are really great for this country. Remember in the years 2000, and the dry seasons and the rationing of power, many hours that companies were crying. Why not for the decision that KenGen made to deliberately develop geothermal? Last year, for example, would have been in a lot of trouble. But you realize that there was no much intense rationing of power, even when we had very prolonged dry spells. And it's because of the geothermal. Geothermal potential in this country is 10 gigawatts. Our installed capacity, all the portfolios, is 3.3, as I had said earlier. So we have barely scratched the surface. And that means that somebody has to deliberately go into this geothermal and spend all the resources that are available to ensure that these, you remember I talked about the base load power.
Yes.
Geothermal is a base load power. The wind that you're talking about, Latiff, is very variable, intermittent. You cannot rely on it. The wind that you're talking about, perhaps the reason why we did not go into a lot of the wind is because also it is variable. And we wanted to specifically channel the resources that were available with the help of the development partners to ensure that we harness our geothermal availability.
Okay.
And that is an area we are still pursuing even today.
So the strategy going forward is to invest more in geothermal.
In geothermal, that would help this country. But again, we have said we don't want to be left so much behind. You mentioned the solar power plant that was done by REREC. We are the ones who are operating and managing that solar plant because of our skills in managing plants. And therefore, when I talked about a solar plant that we shall establish in our hydropower plant area around Kamburu, it's because we know that we have the skills. And again, as I mentioned earlier, it will complement the hydro. During the day, we can use whatever is available from the solar. We preserve our waters, and you know our weather in this country, you cannot be very sure about when you're going to have the rains, when we're going to have the dry spells. So that is what we are now looking at. The wind, I can tell you, we already have identified areas where we have a lot of wind in Meru, in Marsabit. And we are also doing pre-feasibility studies, and again we'll go into feasibility studies to confirm that actually these projects can actually be done. And we shall be in that area as well.
So when we talk about...
Sorry, Ndu, please go ahead.
Yes.
When we talk about green energy, perhaps it's possible we're asking the same question.
Yes, I was thinking
geothermal then not the most environmentally sustainable form of energy that we speak of today? So ask that question and park it for a minute, and then going back to where the country is said to want to be going in the future, the proclamations by the president to say, look, in the next so many odd years, Kenya should be green. And now here we are, we seem to be doing this dance with geothermal, maybe feasibility studies. Can we see if we can sink some more resources? Kenyan has proven that you can produce power, the majority of that power produced today being hydro.
Yes.
Nobody needs, we know you can do it, right? We also know now that you're dabbling with these other ones here and there. So what precludes, apart from, of course, the resource constraint, what precludes it from saying, you know what, we already know that in a few years or so, that the thought is that Kenya will be green. What precludes the move? Not maybe, but like go now, do it.
Very good question. Resources. Projects for generational power are not cheap. They're very expensive. For example, drilling a well. One well can cost you up to about $6 to $7 million US. And you know, some of these things when you drill a well, and you know, our wells in geothermal, they go all the way to 3,000 meters. If you convert that, is 3 kilometers. That is very
underground.
Deep. That is very deep for you to get to where now you can be able to get that heated steam at the temperatures and pressures that you require. So the cost is actually a prohibition. But the government realized that that is a problem, and that's why they set up the Geothermal Development Company to try and de-risk the process, so that the government will put the resources. The drilling of the wells is done. You know, first of all, you start with what we call exploring. You drill a small well to explore, to find out whether it is going to be possible. Then you now go and dig now the real well that is going to generate the power for you. So sometimes, like for example, in Eburu, you're aware of Eburu, we got one well that, and we have a power plant there that is generating about 2 megawatts. We had dug 6 wells. Only one was able to produce. So when you do your mathematics, Latiff, multiply that $6 million US by 5, that is lying there, and it was spent. So it is actually the money that is required. The government is working very hard. We have just talked about the development partners, the financiers from Japan, from Germany. They give us this money, it's on-land money through the government to be able to do these projects because of the costs. So I can assure you that that drive is there, that purpose is there, but the problem is the resources, and we are working closely with the government to help us to be able to do that. And I've just mentioned that already we are not waiting. We are already doing something to improve whatever we have. Already what we have, can we improve and get more? We are soon going to replace some of the turbines on one of the other geothermal power plants. We call it operating of the turbine and the generator. Put new machines that are going to produce more. We have marked out existing plants that are generating 300 megawatts, and we want to increase that. When you replace the turbines and the generators, they will increase to 340. That will be an extra 40 megawatts. Which
Let
is
me ask this
also
question,
substantial.
engineer.
Yes.
Is geothermal power really green? Can I say why I ask?
Go ahead.
You see, if you consider the depths to which you go,
yes,
there's a possibility, remote, that greenhouse gases from below the surface of the earth could be released. There's that possibility.
Yes.
So the green component now gets a little interfered with. But that's just one. Given the depths and just the process of construction and what you do to the earth's surface, the possibility of triggering earthquakes, yes, possibility exists.
Yes.
How do you mitigate against this?
That's why I said that a lot of studies have to be done to confirm. Even we have experts who are called geochemists. We have experts who are called geophysics, and I believe the geophysics are the ones who are going to check whether the earth forces below there. If we do anything, interfere by drilling, there will be something like what you're talking about, an eruption of earthquake or something. That is done, and everything is assessed so that we don't have those problems coming up. And I want to assure you that geothermal is green. It's green because those greenhouse gases, actually, we have checked. They are not there as you get the steam from down. They are not there. So it is actually green, and it is sustainable. What we are doing actually to ensure that we are sure that there is no reduction in the amount of steam that comes, we also drill what we call reinjection wells.
Right.
That after the steam has cooled, we get what we call the brine, the cooled steam. We reinject it back to the same depth. Of course, not very close to where we are, because sometimes when you look at the water that is going out, you don't want that cold water to go and interfere with the temperatures of the steam that is coming up. So you look at where do you reinject to reassure yourself. And besides doing that, we are also looking at in Olkaria. We believe that one of the sources of the water that goes underground there is Enospukia forest. So we are working. Kengen Foundation is working very hard with the Narok County government. We recently signed an MOU where they have given us a portion of the forest for us to do reforestation, and that will help us in preserving the source of our water for the geothermal.
Good one. So as we conclude, I just want to give you a moment, speak to Kenyans who know Kengen, who see power. They only see blackouts, they see high prices. Speak about that for a minute. You as MG of just the guy who generates the power.
Fellow Kenyans, I know it has been a concern even for me, the high cost of electricity. But sometimes it's good for us to ask ourselves, when you look back at history, is it rather we have slightly high cost of electricity than actually having none at all? And I think the answer in most people's minds would be would rather have that slightly higher cost of electricity than having none at all. And the incoming of the independent power producers was actually a blessing in disguise, If you look at the other regions in the other countries in the region, there are some of them who did not take on board that idea or strategy of bringing on board other people to help in generation. And they are now suffering today very high levels of, rationing of power. But again, KenGen, on our side, because of what I talked earlier about our old generating systems, they have been amortized fully. So the cost of power from KenGen, really, if you look at the other power plants or the other independent power producers, we have the cheapest. With the range that have come now, because hydro is the cheapest currently, then we are able actually to confirm that with more generation of hydro, the cost of electricity comes down.
Okay.
Yes.
Engineer Peter Waweru Jenga.
Yes.
Not Ndungu. Not Mwaura.
Not Njoroge.
Not Njoroge. He is the managing director and CEO of the KenGen. Yes. He's been here. He's been telling us the KenGen strategy in helping Kenya go to 100% green energy and what they've done so far. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Time for the news. Good morning.
Programs. Speaking in Hola Town during a meeting between MCAs and Tana River County Assembly and a team from the Commission, Vice Chairperson of the Commission, Washington Sati, eyed all 47 county governments to move fast to domesticate model county complaints handling policy and model law on access to information for county governments for the benefit of entrenching transparency and accountability in the counties. Tana River County Assembly Speaker Osman Galole thanked the Ombudsman team for the visit and appealed to the Commission to open an office in Tana River to bring its services closer to the people. The national government has been requested to invest more funds into the implementation of the CBC curriculum. Speaking in Mombasa after opening the conference of deputy principals of Machakos County High Schools, Machakos Deputy Governor Francis Mwangangi has said that the lack of sufficient resources has caused the system not to be fully implemented. According to Mwangangi, currently the teachers have not received enough training, especially to develop the education of the primary secondary school, that is the JSS.
Huo mfumo hautakuja kuendelea ikiwa serikali kuu haitaweka fedha mahali pale. Ikiwa walimu wetu hawatasomeshwa wakuwe na masomo ya kutosha ndio waweze kuhudumia zile junior secondary schools vilivyo. Ni ombi langu kwa mbunge letu, kwa wizara ya elimu, waangalilie junior secondary schools. Otherwise watoto wetu wataenda pale wamalize mwaka mmoja, mwaka wa pili na watoke mahali pale bila kuhitimu vile inatakikana. Kwa hivyo ni vizuri tuweke fedha ya kutosha pale ndio tuone ya kwamba junior secondary school imekuwa a success story.
The Ministry of Health in Kilifi County has started an initiative of vaccinating its health officers from hepatitis B. A doctor at the Kilifi Referral Hospital, Edward Makini, has said that 200 staff members of the hospital have already been vaccinated. The exercise will take 9 months to ensure that all staff members are vaccinated.
Mipango imekuwa tokea mwanzo wa mwaka, lakini zoezi hili kabisa la kuchanja limeanza huu mwezi wa pili. Kwa hivyo saa hii tunakaribia wiki 3 na. Kwanza zoezi hili limepokelewa vizuri sana na wale wahudumu na kufikia sasa tunaweza sema takriban watu 200, wafanyikazi 200 wameweza kupata ile chanjo. Na zoezi hili kwa sababu ile chanjo ya hepatitis B kwa mtu ambaye hajawahi dungwa kabisa, atadungwa chanjo ya kwanza, alafu baada ya mwezi mmoja ama wiki 4 ataongezwa chanjo ya pili, alafu mwezi 6 ataongezwa chanjo ya 3.
Kenya has won the bid to host the prestigious 2024 Transform Africa Summit. The announcement was made during the annual Mobile World Conference in Barcelona, Spain. In his acceptance speech, C.S. Owalo noted that the victory underscores Kenya's standing as an information and communications technology powerhouse and a regional leader in driving the transformative impact of ICTs on socio-economic development. The Transform Africa Summit, organized annually by the Smart Africa Alliance, is the foremost continental forum uniting global and regional ICT leaders from government, business and international organizations. The collaboration aims to explore innovative approaches to shaping, accelerating and sustaining Africa's ongoing digital revolution. The bidding process, initiated in November last year through the Communications Authority, reflected Kenya's determination to secure the hosting rights and showcase the nation's capabilities on a global stage. The Transform Africa Summit is scheduled to take place in Nairobi from 28th to 30th of August this year. And the International Labour Organization has noted that the trafficking of young girls continues to be rampant in Kenya and Uganda. The agency's program manager, Grace Banya, says many girls under the age of 18 from Uganda have been affected as they are brought into the country illegally to do housework. The children have been brought to Kenya mainly through the border of Kenya and Uganda located in Busia.
I must say the Uganda route, especially the Busia route, we found lots of girls that are being trafficked across that border, post into Kenya to work as housemaids. 2 years ago, I think there was a soup of where there were over, thousands and thousands of girls that were being repatriated back into Uganda. And these are being wooed by their peers because they think there are greener pastures across the border and vice versa.
This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
If a lion shows you its teeth, it doesn't mean it likes you.
It doesn't mean it likes you. It won't start. A liar calls as witness one who is either dead or far away. Say it in Kiswahili.
Ben low, nin inte, yenin der, ayu markati kadikta. This character called liar. He has disturbed people. So when you tell him who are your witnesses, he will take you to a place where it is difficult to verify.
For someone like me who sweats a lot, I cannot survive there. Sweating is biblical. And he must blame it on Adam, not me. Because Adam messed up and he was told no.
94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
All right, a few minutes after 9 o'clock, and it's still busy here and there in the city. Wangari Maathai Way today has been crazy, all the way then through towards Museum Hill and then going towards Waiyaki Way and then also getting onto Huru Highway into the city. It's crazy on Murang'a Road, and it has been for a minute. It looks like we're not going to get out of traffic hours soon, especially in this area. As you're coming over the drift on James Gishuru and then crossing towards Waiyaki Way, you should be all right. And looking on the other side of the city on the Thika Superhighway, still a little bit of traffic coming in then towards the Pangani underpass, and that's going to hold for some time, so we'll just keep an eye out for that. As you're coming off of Outer Ring, looking then onto Jogoo Road, this whole area, still some traffic there, so an eye on things. What we'll do, let's talk on Spice FM. KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your...
Sending to people who have plans.
We are telling them, if you have a plan, that plan can be revamped. It can be made better. And it's good when you have one. So you know that when you're improving on something you already have and you're familiar with. Now, if you don't have a plan, well, you have an opportunity to get one. So planning is available to all. To those who have, you can replan. To those who don't have, they can embark on a whole new journey of planning.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, indeed. Now, if you go on to X, you can go and look for ICEA Lion, and you will find them. You go and DM them. They will respond to you and tell you exactly how they can help you, come up with a plan or even manage that plan. Okay? ICEA Lion on X, on all social media platforms. They are available everywhere, including TikTok and Facebook and IG, everywhere. Hashtag what's your plan? You need a plan? Talk to them. You can also email them plan@icalion.co.ke or visit their website, which is icalion.co.ke. Mambo ni mengi, sio matatu peke yake. For example, kuna mambo 35 in 35 different markets in Africa.
Indeed.
And 4 other markets outside Africa. Did I hear an alarm?
No, it's the glass.
Okay.
Okay, you're fine, really.
Okay.
Exactly. 35 different markets, 4 outside of Africa, and only one platform. That's what EcoBank says. You can actually use this one platform to make sure that your business does not stop regardless of where you are. Have an account in Nairobi and you're traveling to Pretoria tomorrow and you still have bills to pay in Nairobi, you can go ahead and do that because you're plugged into this one platform under EcoBank. So it doesn't really matter where you go. Things don't have to stop just because you left. So you realize that it's a better way to do business. It's a better way. It's a better Africa.
Kabisa. It's not a group of banks. It's a
banking group.
Kabisa. Our next guest is a member of the National Assembly. He represents the people of Molo constituency. And then in the National Assembly, he chairs a very, very important committee, the Committee on Finance and Planning. The Honorable Kuria Kimani. Happy New Year, brother. You haven't been here since last year. Can you imagine?
Yeah, it's been a minute. I think the last time I was here, I gave you a good morning, everyone. The last time I was here, I gave you the good news of we've just completed a working study tour in several states in the US. And when I met Kenyans in diaspora there, they said they actually wake up very early to listen to SpiceFM. So, and I remember people are very excited when I told you that. But that is really true. This is the Situation Room is program that's listened globally. Most of the Kenyans in diaspora, when they want to catch very objective news and watch interesting debates of what's happening back home, they certainly tune into SpiceFM Situation Room.
What also excites us is knowing that even those in positions of leadership, policy in various levels, legislation, are listening. Those in policy, including State House, are listening. And so when Kenyans speak, those who are making policy are hearing what Kenyans want.
Yeah, and also you also do very objective reporting. During a time when there is a sort of sensationalization of news and propaganda, there is one place. There are a few places left that you can go to and get the news, and this is one of those places.
Very good. Now, Mheshimiwa, a lot is happening in the public conversations. Recently, the Affordable Housing Bill has been processed by Parliament. And this is, of course, in response to what started as the housing levy. It was it tax before, then it became levy? Was it just fund, then became tax, then became levy? Whatever it is, the deduction and the matters that have been prosecuted in court and the status that then said, no, we need a framework to manage this money that's collected through this. Yesterday, we saw this advisory from the Attorney General to the Kenya Revenue Authority, and basically just telling them, at present, what has come out of court is what stands until you have a legal framework in place to manage the money. What is the status of that?
Latiff, I don't know really why the communique by the Attorney General is becoming all over news, because the court pronounced themselves, I think, around 26th of January, about the collection of housing levy. So what happened is Kenya Revenue Authority and National Treasury had applied for stay orders for them to continue collecting the housing levy until the case is fully heard and determined. And those stay orders were rejected by both, I think, the High Court and the Court of Appeal. And therefore, this matter has, in January, there was no collection of housing levy by KRA, and KRA did not even enforce or collection of that housing levy. We are in the month of February. Most employers are already preparing the payrolls for this month, and nobody has been asked to really remit their housing levy, because this administration is an administration that respects the rule of law. So what happened after the issue of housing levy was challenged in court? We got to study as a legislative arm of government that ruling and find out what are the courts saying, because the Constitution, its wisdom, gives us the three arms of government and gives duties and responsibilities to these three arms of government that are distinct and clear cut. So the legislative arm of government, where I sit, we make laws, the executive implements them, and the judiciary interprets them. So we studied that interpretation and said the housing levy was unconstitutional for two reasons. One, they said it was discriminatory because it was targeting employed people only, and it was not targeting the unemployed people. And then secondly, they said that there was lack of a legislative framework, because once you look at the establishment of all the other levies and all the other funds, they are actually established under an act of parliament, whether it's a road maintenance levy, whether it is a catering levy. Every time you eat at a restaurant, there's a percentage of it, I think it's 3%, that goes to catering levy, that's supposed to go into training of people in that profession. Every time you buy fuel, there's a percentage of it that goes to road levy. The other funds like the railway development levy. So all these funds are actually established under an act of parliament. Yep. So what therefore parliament did was to go back to the drawing board and find how do we make sure that we have now a piece of legislation that will pass the test of judicial litigation. And that's when the Leader Majority Party tabled, I think last December, the Affordable Housing Bill. Again, when it was tabled and we advertised for public participation, again, we got another challenge by the court saying you cannot conduct public participation in a manner that was advertised then in the papers. Why? Because usually the way Parliament carries out its public participation, we put out an ad in the papers and say, if you have any views on this particular bill, send email or deliver hard copies or send by post office your views to these addresses. And again, some people challenged that in court and said that people like are marginalized, people with living disabilities, and then will not have a chance to participate in this lawmaking process because of the way it was done. And therefore, again, through the leadership of the committee, myself, because this was done by the Joint Committee of Finance and National Planning and the Committee of Housing, Urban Planning and Public Works. So we came to the drawing board and asked, so how do we make sure there is sufficient public participation that doesn't seem to that will be we listen to as many views as possible, and we take it as close to people as possible. So we sampled 29 counties out of the 8 previous provincial administration, and we did now public hearings. We went, in fact, they were common, like they were like barazas. Yeah. We went to Narok, we went to Homa Bay, we went to Mombasa, we went to Lamu, we went to Kilifi, we went to Nakuru, we went to Baringo, we went to Nyandarua, we went to Embu, we went to Kirinyaga, we went to Turkana, we went to Isiolo, and we went to Wajir. We sampled all those counties. We went and said, people, this is a law that's proposed. What are your views? And Kenyans are very informed people, and they gave us very, very interesting views. First of all, the bill required that for you to be accorded an affordable house, and you had to make 10% deposit. And they said, for example, for social housing, that are targeting those people that have an income of less than 20,000 shillings, they said, I can't afford 10%. And what is the criteria in asking somebody who is buying a social house, who is earning an income of less than 20,000 shillings, depositing a 10%, and another one who is buying a 6 million house at Park Road, again paying similar 10%. And so part of the recommendations that we proposed to Parliament, to National Assembly, and I'm glad that the plenary agreed with us, was deletion of that clause that required a deposit of 10%. Another question came.
So what do you replace it with? If you delete it, then
So the percent the deposit that will be required to be paid will be made in subsequently regulations, depending on the project. So, for example, if it is the houses that are targeting people who are earning like more than 10,000 shillings, then you can have a deposit. But if it's social housing, then even in practice, when you're moving houses, you pay a deposit of that 1 month and then the 1 month equivalent. So we relate that to subsequent regulations so that they can be made according to the 3 types of housing units. Another thing that came up was the need for institutional housing, something that had not been captured by the bill. One of the greatest challenges where our TVET, our KMTC, and our university students are facing is decent accommodation for students. If you go around every university, there's a slum next to it. You go to Kenyatta University, there's a slum called KM. You go to University of Nairobi, there's another one. You go to Egerton University, there's another one. An example, the Technical University of Nairobi, which sits in the middle of the city, has around 20,000 students, but only 408 accommodation units in the campus, which means you have tens of thousands of students who do not have an income, trying to find a place to live in the city. And you can imagine if getting decent, affordable housing, even for rent, for employed Kenyans, is difficult. Now, think about students staying in the same city. So one of the recommendations is that we did, and I'm happy that National Assembly agreed with us, is even changing the definition of what affordable housing is to include institutional housing, and now to include that the fund will be required to allocate resources for construction of institutional housing units, especially for our universities, for our TVETs, and for KMTC, for Kenya Defence Forces, and for police officers, because that is the other challenge. If you go to places like the northeastern part of this country, it's very difficult to have teachers stay on the job because there's no decent housing. You go to places like Turkana and all these other places, one of the biggest sources of insecurity in those places is because even the security agents that are sent there do not have decent housing. That's why they are bombarded all the time by the bandits. So we now introduce a phrase, we now introduce a clause that expressly provides that the affordable housing will have to include institutional housing. The other big debate that Kenyans were really asking is, what is the relationship between my contributing to this and my owning? So, what does it mean that Eric gets to be deducted 1.5% of his pay? Goes to the affordable housing fund. That money is used to build a house that someone who has a business that even earns him almost the same amount of income like you do, but is not contributing to the fund and gets to own the house. And one of the recommendations that we made, and that was passed at the third at the committee of the whole house, and subsequently now in the third reading, was to require even the informal sector to pay the 1.5% housing levy, so that the catch here is when you're doing application for the house, the requirement before was that you had to be 18 years old and you have a KRA pin. But these houses are not for free, okay? And I think Kenyans really need to understand that what government is trying to do here is to bridge in the demand gap. But it doesn't mean that you're going to be under this house for free. You're going to buy it. So if you're buying, you certainly have an income. And so it would be very unfair that someone who is earning 30,000 shillings a month gets to pay 1.5% of that, that's around 450 shillings, as housing levy, and someone who has a gross income of the same amount, 30,000 shillings, doesn't get to pay to the housing fund, but gets to benefit.
They qualify.
They qualify. So we added an additional qualification that said that for you now to qualify for the affordable housing programs, you must be tax compliant. So there is now need to provide a tax compliance certificate.
Which is
so
proof
that tax compliance has to, in addition to the other taxes that you have been contributing to the fund. Lastly, the way the bill was initially was providing for this amount of money is going to the State Department, this is going to National House Corporation, this is going to this. But then this is going to institutional housing. But then we thought there will be a time when we will have built enough houses that we don't have to build them anymore. So what we set up is a revolving fund. So when these monies are collected by the Kenya Revenue Authority, they go to the affordable housing fund. Okay, then this fund is run by a board, and one of the things that we did was tighten the qualification of the board. You know, one of the things that was interesting initially, the bill was saying that the CEO would have to have experience in the built environment. And as people were asking, so my foreman can be the CEO, of this huge fund. So we tightened it up, requiring them to have at least a bachelor's degree, to have experience in the built environment, to be a member of these professions, whether it's legal or built environment or economics or accounting, something like that. But most importantly, have very stiff penalties on misappropriation of those funds, because what you've seen do in Muga and Latiff for a very long time is we have not had a deliberate effort to protect public funds from misappropriation. We have not had stiff penalties that discourages people from misappropriating funds. We've seen people who have, say, been prosecuted for misappropriating, say, 1 billion shillings of public funds, and they're let out with a fine of 5 million. Come on, if I would be asked, if I was given 1 billion shillings and told my fine is 10, even if I was told to go to jail for 1 month,
you'll go,
boss, alafu kuja urudi uko na kabilioni kako, si utaenda jela hiyo mwaka moja, alafu urudi upate kabi kako happily ever after.
Mheshimiwa, I've got to ask this question. Are there people who said no to the entire concept of a contributory housing levy?
Of course there were. We had varied views. So maybe before we get that, so what we did, we set up a penalty for misappropriation of these funds, and we made it twice the amount of money you misappropriate. And that is the first time that we have any legislation now doing that. So that if you misappropriate 5 million, then you pay double of it. If you misappropriate 1 billion, then you pay double it. On the question of other people, you said no, yes. There are people who said, no, we do not want it to contribute, we want it to be voluntary. There are people who said, we do not want to contribute as the salaried people, and the non-salaried are not contributing. We want to have a tie to that. When I'm contributing, then I need to have to be guaranteed, to at least have a surety that the people who are benefiting from this program are the ones who are contributing. A lot of people living disabilities came and said, for example, one of the biggest challenges you have in the commercial housing units that are available in the market is that very few of them are built in a way that are accessible to people living disabilities. So you find that if you take a typical apartment, the way that the toilets are done, the way the kitchen are done, very few of them are cognizant of people with disabilities. And now we say that in both the construction and the allocation of these affordable housing units, then there must be consideration of youth, women, marginalized people, and people living with disabilities in both the allocation and the design of these houses. And also, it's good to note when you're doing a piece of legislation, and I saw this confusion even when it came to the floor of the House for debate. When a bill comes to the floor of the House, during what's called the Committee of the Whole House, any member can raise in their place and make amendments.
Yeah.
And I think Kenyans need to understand this. Voting on a bill, apart from at the end of it all, when we call during the third reading, where there is a global yea or nay, but for the rest of the process, it is voted clause by clause. What does clause 2 say? What does clause 3 say? What does this? And then if you feel that, for example, 1.5% is too little or too high, then you can say, now, let's increase it to 2.
Propose an amendment.
Yeah, propose an amendment. And then if you're able to convince the House and other members of Parliament then that this is exactly agreeable, then you debate and you convince the others and they're going to vote for it.
So,
and one of the things that...
So the question is...
Sorry.
The Joint Parliamentary Committee on Finance and that of Housing, when you went around all those public hearings, you would say that a majority of the people who appeared before you did not have a problem with the concept of a housing levy.
Certainly.
So it's only a minority who said absolute no.
Yeah.
In its entirety.
Yes, the majority of people, and we have these submissions in our report, that out of the around, each meeting we had around at least 500 people. 500 times 29, that's around 1,500 people.
Yep.
So out of the 1,500 people that appeared before us, and around 600 memoranda that we received from members of the public, 80% of them I said that we have a housing problem in this country that we need to fix, and they recommended amendments to the law that they felt would have tightened the law and made it more accessible to Kenyans and cheaper to Kenyans, and ensure fairness and the things that we've talked about. For example, capturing people with disabilities. The issue of employment, by the way, also came up, and people are saying, fine, what guarantees us in this, for example, came from, I remember this in Lamu, what guarantees us that when this project is done, it is not, the way cost of people speak, si nyinyi watu wa bara mtakuja mfanye hizi kazi, tutahakikisha kwamba hizi kazi ni zetu sisi wa coast ndio tunataka kufanya hizi kazi, si nyinyi mtoke kule bara mkuje mfanye hizi kazi. And now what we did in we proposed amendments to the bill that were adopted by the House was now requiring as much as possible to have employment of local labor and sourcing materials locally from that community, so that we have a ripple down, we have a triple effect on not just that where these projects are done, it's not just the houses that are built, but the labor, the
local economy is also impacted,
and the building units of not the raw materials are actually got from that community.
Let's take a break. Ndu, someone is saying there's crazy traffic on Limuru Road. Tell us about that and elsewhere what's happening on the roads. 9:30, Kuria Kimani, the Member of Parliament for Molo Constituency, Chair of the National Assembly Committee on Finance and Planning, is our guest. We are talking about this affordable housing bill that's gone through Parliament, plus the Affordable Housing Fund, and how it's going to be managed. Keep it here. We'll be back shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Oh, finally! It's my Standard Courier delivery.
At Standard Courier, we know that your time is valuable. That's why we guarantee swift and efficient deliveries to your doorstep every time. Give us a call on 0793 599 684 or schedule your next delivery by visiting our website www.standardmedia.co.ke/courier. Trust Standard Courier service for all your courier needs. We deliver with pride.
If you want your clothes and fashion gear to be so sexy that even your wardrobe blushes, what do? Buy tickets to a fabulous fashion show? See what the dedicated divas are wearing? None of the above, because soon the Nairobian will become the Nairobian Extra and give you TNX rated fashion live.
Looking for your favorite KTN station and just can't seem to find it? Well, you can watch all KTN channels on Pang. From the latest bulletins on KTN News Channel 5X0, heartwarming stories on KTN Home Channel 104, insightful agricultural content on KTN Farmers Channel 176, to the best of entertainment on KTN Burudani Channel 170. We have it all. Grab your remote, tune in to Pang, and enjoy the variety of content we've prepared for your enjoyment.
Yes, unusual traffic coming in on Wangari Maathai highway. Not quite sure what's causing this, but it actually has been here all morning. And so folks just waking up to that reality. We're not sure what's happened, but then it's snaking in all the way past museums. You're going in one direction towards Wayaki Way and the other on Huru Highway into the CBD. It's affecting then traffic that's coming in on Ojijo Road. So that all looks pretty crazy, as well as Kipande Road, trying to get towards the CBD. There's still traffic on Murang'a Road coming into the city. So all of this is a mishmash of annoyance this morning. So if you can find an alternate route, you might want to think about that, because this looks like it's going to be here for a minute. Must have been something that happened, and we're still looking for a shout out to hear what that might be. Traffic on the Thika Superhighway reducing significantly as you get into the city, but then you're going to get stuck on Wangari Maathai if that's the way you choose to go. So it looks like it's going to be there for a bit. Let's talk through the morning. Shout out SpiceFM KE on X.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
With the Honorable Kuria Kimani, MP Molo, Chair Finance and Planning.
So, I mean, I hear you when you talk about doing public participation and all of that. Voices from 500 people from, give or take 20 counties. What happens to the voices that you hear after the fact? The voices after your report, or even voices maybe that you didn't capture, who have genuine concerns, and then look to people who are their representatives, and then having to ask the question, what balance do you create when you're representing your people, but then you're also paying allegiance to your party, which we cannot run away from as a reality either?
Wow. So one of the things that we certainly do when we are listening to the members of parliament, and I keep telling this to my committee members, we go there with an open mind. In majority of the time, like I dare say, if you check the affordable housing bill that has been taken to the Senate, and you compare with the affordable housing bill that came from the executive, there are fundamental changes. There are actually a total of 49 clauses that we have either amended or added new clauses. Because public participation enriches the legislation process. And for example, the things that I mentioned, they all came from the public. We didn't have a revolving fund before. Now, with the proposed amendments from the people, now we have a revolving fund. And what a revolving fund therefore means is that with time, because look at it this way, we're charging this levy, putting it into a pool of funds. Then we're using the model is a county or public or county or national government identifies public land and sets aside for affordable housing. And the essence of doing this on public land is again to reduce the cost of land, because one of the reasons why houses have remained unaffordable is the cost of land. So if the land is free and the money you're using to construct these houses is taxpayers' money, and then these houses are not free, they are for sale. So we have two sources of revenue for this fund. There's a levy that builds these houses, but then when you take these houses, then there is money that is paid for these houses. So that means that this is going to be one of the largest funds we have in the country. Because remember, all the other funds that you have, whether it's a catering fund, you charge the fund, you expense, the money is depleted. This is like initial seed capital. You put into the housing projects, you take those houses, you recoup that money back into the fund. That means in the next several years, then you might actually not have to levy again, because now you'll have created an enough pool of resources that is sufficient to continue with bridging the housing agenda in the country. Secondly, what this program by government has done, it has signaled the market into finding more efficient ways of providing affordable housing to the public. And you've seen a lot of private developers now coming up and saying this is affordable housing program, and you've seen market prices of houses going low. In 2018, a two-bed apartment in Kileleshwa or Lavington would cost you no less than 17 million shillings. Now, every day now, you pass around Kileleshwa and Lavington, you see ads of apartments, two-bedroom apartments going for 5 million, for 6 million shillings that are built by the private sector. So the signaling that Kenya is going to, that we have a 200,000 units deficit of housing units in the country, and the government is coming to bridge in and saying it has sent a signaling effect to the private sector that are now coming into this investment. And therefore, I'm seeing in the long run, the government will not have again to engage in this and this program. We have just to be self-financing and now let the private sector continue with it. In fact, part of the provisions that we've provided, Schedule 3 on this bill was who are going to be the implementing agencies. And one of the implementing agencies now there has been stipulated as the private sector. A lot of Kenyans are also asking, why not allocate appropriate money from the national budget and do this affordable housing units? And that is a genuine, really concern by Kenyans. But Latiff, let me tell you, out of the 10 shillings that we collect as revenue, out of 10 shillings that KRA collects every day, 7 of those shillings goes to pay national debt. 7 out of 10 goes to pay national. In fact, it is 6.7 shillings. So you have left with 3.3 shillings for development and for recurrent expenditures. Out of that, 2 shillings is for recurrent. It's for paying salary of civil servants, for sending books for our primary school children, for maintaining our police service, for maintaining our armies and all that. So we are left with hardly a shilling for development. That would mean that we probably take another 50 years for us to have the kind of resources that are needed to bridge the 200,000 housing units deficit we have in this republic.
Much more, I have an issue with Parliament, though.
Okay.
And my big problem with Parliament is, what I would, without fear of contradiction, say is failure. When the issue of housing bill was being discussed, it was a public debate before the Finance Act, before the finance bill even went into proper debate in the House, this issue of finance bill was being discussed. And one of the things that I remember even the PS Hinga saying is, we will not start collecting money from this housing until we have regulations in place, until we have a framework for managing this money in place. One would expect that would be obvious to members of Parliament, particularly those sitting in the Finance Committee or the Budget Committee, because if you are collecting money for specific need, you have got to ring-fence that money so that it doesn't go to pay salaries and buy mandazi. You failed us because you approved the levy without approving or demanding that a framework comes first before you approve a levy.
Okay.
And it had to take a Kenyan to go to court to raise this matter, among others, for Parliament to see, oh yes, my God, yeah.
There are some loopholes here.
We were supposed to have done this.
Yes, Latiff, I knew that we needed to create an additional legal framework. And part of the remedy that we did as we waited to create time now to bring that legislative framework was, again, if you check the finance bill as it came to Parliament and the Finance Act, there's a big difference on section, if I'm right, section 34A and B, that we said previously it was there's going to be a 3%, actually it was 3% housing levy, 3% employer, 3% employee. We reduced it to 1.5% employer, 1.5% employee. But most importantly, and remember this amendment was brought by the MP for Machakos, which as the chair of the committee I agreed to and we supported in the House and it was approved. We said that these monies will only be spent for the purpose of affordable housing and proper sanitation and the required infrastructure. That is in the Finance Act. And what that amendment did, it singled out the housing levy from the other taxes that are proposed by the Finance Act to the framework that existed before this annulling by the court was KRA collects it. It is put in a special account at Central Bank of Kenya, only for the purpose of which is stipulated in the Finance Act. Construction, offtake of affordable housing units and the required infrastructure, including roads and sanitation.
Was that
provision
was that sufficient?
Is there. On whether it's sufficient or not is a subject of court of legal interpretation.
No, in your opinion.
In my
having
opinion,
that clause there that
in
says
opinion,
this money doesn't even go, it goes to the central bank and it can only be used to build houses, but it does not tell the central bank or the controller of budget how to make sure that this money is actually going to build houses. If a minister, if we abolish the Ministry of Housing, and the Department for Housing was under something else called Environment, and someone in the Ministry of Environment came and said, we are building houses for KFS officers, would the controller of budget have said, no, I cannot approve this withdrawal? Because the word housing would have been there,
at that
and
time,
sanitation would have been there.
At that time, Latiff, that was sufficient to the judgment of the committee members, the judgment of National Assembly, to the judgment of all our legal teams, and the thinking that national members of Parliament work by themselves.
Mheshimiwa, you just started this conversation this morning by saying, actually, we have experience as Parliament. We have a petroleum development levy. There's a law. We have, which other levies did you talk about?
The road maintenance levy.
Yes, road maintenance levy. There's a law to manage it. We have this catering levy. There's a law to manage it. You had experience knowing for us to establish this catering levy, we need to anchor it in law. But you're telling us that your experience came and told you that no, we don't need a law for this one. No. We just need a clause for this one.
Gentlemen and lady, knowledge is something that gets to evolve. You get to learn something today and you improve that you're learning tomorrow. And the thinking that particular time was that was sufficient, and that will buy us time to bring the legislative framework, which started drafting immediately. And that is why, even before the annulling of this by the court, because the final annulling was done at the end of January, we stopped collecting in 1st of January. The affordable housing bill was tabled last year. So even when we said this will suffice for now, but we got to have a legislative framework, and we sent our drafters on their toes to start. Now, can we have now that legislative proposal to be brought before?
So what was the urgency?
And it's came.
In the end, practically, this program will begin from around May, June. Yes.
What was the urgency?
What was the urgency? Why couldn't you first of all bring the housing bill and then bring the affordable housing levy in the next financial year?
We have now, for example, at least 210 housing units being done in 196 constituencies across the country.
Has our money been used on that?
Yes.
Has the housing levy been used?
That is a housing levy
So this money is already being used?
Of course, yes. Once two things happen.
You don't see a problem there, Mheshimiwa.
What's the problem?
You are using the money illegally.
How?
The money shouldn't have been collected in the first place. If everything that ought to have been done was done, I find this puzzling. You have a good thing, and then you know what needs to be done. It is not done. And then everything is supposed to follow. Now, look at the bad press you get. Look at the baggage that comes with it. All unnecessary. And yet all this could have been done simply by doing what was needed to be done in the first place.
Muga, I dare tell you that any time there has always been a revolutionary idea and a change, it is never welcome. And that is the nature of human being. Even if we took a year or two, when you want to introduce something new, it is not welcome. Some of the programs that you've seen, let's talk about the National Social Protection Fund, the engineering of NHIF. We've had a lot of debate about it. We are questioning it. And of course, it has been challenged in court. When it gets to work, then people are saying, oh, okay. I think this was a good thing. When the social protection fund for elderly people was started in this country, there was out of saying, why are we giving people money for free? Why are we giving these elderly people money for free? Talk about the new constitution, a very, very progressive document. We were split in the middle as a country. Devolution. We were told devolution is Majimboism. And by the way, it is Majimboism. Majimboism then. It
was demonized.
Majimboism then, especially people from my community who were told this is Majimbo, and Majimbo is associating with the Raila Odinga, it was a terrible thing. So,
power grab.
If we have something that we are saying now, we are really celebrating a very progressive constitution. But during that constitutional moment, we were split right in the middle.
And you know what we did not do?
Yes.
We did not introduce a constitution through the back door.
No.
We followed due process.
What have we introduced in the back door?
This levy.
How is it in the back door?
Without a legal framework.
I mean, surely, Mheshimiwa.
Why is the law following the money?
Let's ask the question right now, because we keep going back and forth. It's a yes or no. Is there a legal framework for the implementation of the housing levy today? It's either there or it's not.
We have, how do you call it? We have a vote for it at the State Department of Housing. The money is ring-fenced in terms of the Controller of Budget cannot approve those monies for payment of salaries or for nothing else apart from what is pronounced in the Finance Act and what is pronounced in the Appropriations Act. Because the Appropriations Act created a specific vote for this particular purpose. And, gentlemen and lady, this information is progressive now. And the role of the independent arms of government, because if the courts did not pronounce themselves on this particular matter, we would be having this conversation. The program will be ongoing. And that is why, in the wisdom of the Constitution, because no particular institution is said to have the island of knowledge, that you do this work, legislation, you execute as the executive, judiciary interpret. And you've had judicial interpretations even on our Constitution over and over and over again. So, an example, if you the oldest constitution of this world is the Constitution of the United States of America.
So the answer is no, Mheshimiwa, that there is no legal framework. What there is a plan in order to institute a legal framework after the fact. And I think that we can just agree on, isn't it? So that has come later. And so the question continues to be, when we talk about representation from Parliament of the people, which is in many cases first charge, what guarantee do you give to Kenyans futurely that it is their interests that you represent first, as opposed to the interests of the executive for which heads your party? And we cannot say that, call it perception, call it optics, but it plays very squarely in this conversation, and we cannot run away from that. Futurely, because this, many would say they've thrown up their arms, it's a done deal. And they cannot run away from the power that you wield in Parliament or to whom you are beholden. So what guarantees, and I'm really, really concerned about this, what guarantees do you give to Kenyans that truly it is their interests? The Kenyans who are crying today about not being able to afford school fees, the Kenyans who are crying today that they cannot afford a meal, the Kenyans who are crying that they paid power bills and they can't get power, they paid power installation fees and they can't get power. The Kenyans who go to hospital tomorrow and cannot get medicine. And here we are saying, take a little bit more from Kenyans and build houses for them. Okay. Mheshimiwa, how do you say tomorrow that truly you will represent the needs of people? I feel like crying because Kenyans are asking that question. And here we are talking about building houses and Kenyans are wondering, do you really know? Do you really know where I am? That's what Kenyans are asking today.
No. The issue of loyalty between the loyalty to the people and loyalty to the party, and I think that is the most critical question that you've asked. We went to campaign to the people, and you have a choice to choose a political party. And Kenyans elect not just the individual, but they elect your political vehicle. And if you doubt it, tell me any UDA member of parliament that was elected in, say, Nyanza region, where Raila Odinga got the highest number of votes. Or tell me someone who got elected on an ODM ticket, even when there were those candidates where President William Ruto and Deputy President Gachagua led in the number of votes. The reality of politics and political parties is true, because I went to the same car, to the same rally with President Ruto and Deputy President Gachagua and said that we have a plan of how to do affordable housing units in this country. The people that were campaigning on the other side, as Azimio, went on that platform. And therefore, even though you are required to exercise your oversight roles, the truth is, political realities of your political party, you have to take in consideration of that. And let me give an example. The position I hold as the chair of Finance Committee of the National Assembly is not an Azimio position. And that is a reality.
It's a Kenya Kwanza position.
It is a Kenya Kwanza position. And therefore, I am mandated by my party to execute also my party's manifesto. And that is what you'll have a choice to choose in the next election. Because unlike say the judiciary or some, especially the judiciary arm of government, the executive, especially the presidency and the members of parliament, every 5 years, we go back to the people.
And you're answerable.
And I'm answerable. So I'll be answerable. In 2017, I was elected on a Jubilee ticket. I went back and said, elect me back on this is what we agreed to do. Did we do it? Even 2027, I'll go back to my people. And they will have a chance to choose. Did I do what I promised them to do?
Let me tell you something.
And that is the power of the democracy of the Republic of Kenya.
I agree to a great extent. But then, your job, even in this political formation, is to make sure that things are done the right way.
Yes.
Okay? That's the job you're given. The job of the president is to make sure the country is run the right way. The job of the member of parliament is to make sure that the president is running the country the right way. That's the job that you have.
Yeah.
And when you feel that the president is cutting corners, it is your job to stop him in his tracks and tell him, you are cutting corners and this is not lawful. So when you approve a fund and you don't have a framework for it, you're failing in your job. This is not the Kenya Kwanza, this is not all those things. It is your job to make sure that Kenya Kwanza delivers on its campaign promise, but following due process. It's your job to make sure that public participation happens properly. It's your job to make sure that if you come up with a new legislative framework, it shall be done in accordance with the law. It's your job to make sure that the executive does not go on a borrowing spree without answering to parliament, or on a spending spree without answering to parliament. You can't come and tell us, you see, Kenya Kwanza promised, if, let's say, Azimio had won, and Raila was the president, and he had promised 6,000, you can't tell us that MPs would have sat down and say, Raila anataka pesa ngapi? 6,000, yalisema, wache iende. It was their job, plus you, who would be in that parliament today, to make sure that due process is followed in the expenditure of this money. This is what we're having an issue with parliament. If parliament does not tell the executive, no, we shall follow due process and not political expedience.
Let me give an example of what happened because I was in the last parliament, and I'll compare that to what is happening now. I've given an example. I don't know why you are all not
remembering.
You're conveniently forgetting.
Remind us the example.
Out of the affordable housing bill, for example. Let me start with the finance bill. The finance bill that was tabled in Parliament, and that is in the Finance Act, has had 110 amendments. Those amendments are not brought by the executive. This affordable housing bill, is fundamentally different in terms of its structure from what was brought by the executive. I have just told you that we have 49 new amendments and new clauses on this bill. That was not done by the executive. next week, for example, we've received a petition from one of the members of parliament on the loans that are given to boda people. You have a creditor, a businessman or company comes and says, I'm going to give you a boda, you're going to pay 200 shillings a month, 200 shillings a day, and then you sign. By the time we are completing to pay for that bike, you've paid 350,000 shillings.
Yes, you
more than twice.
Thrice even.
More than thrice the amount of money. And interestingly, just when you're about to complete, ukichelewa na siku ngapi, your bike is taken. Some of those people, instead of now the business of lending, they are in the business of selling the bikes
and collecting them
to Kenyans and collecting them. And what we're doing as a Committee of Finance and National Assembly from next week is we're going to get to the middle of it and make sure that those loans that are given to boda riders, for example, must adhere to interest rates, and they must adhere to a particular law, and we must make sure that those boda people are protected.
Can I say something?
Is that the work executive? No. Okay. That is the independent role of National Assembly. And the initiative of the Chair of the Finance National Assembly.
Time is up. We actually agree with everything you're saying. We may not seem to remember or understand certain things, but neither do you. Our point of difference is not what you're saying. It is on process and procedure and the right thing to do. That's it. Everything else you say we agree with.
We'll do better.
Yes.
Do the right thing the right way.
We'll do better.
All the time.
Mheshimiwa Kuria Kimani, we always love it when you come here. He's a member of parliament for Molo constituency, chairman of the very crucial Finance and Planning Committee of the National Assembly. He's been our guest this hour. Thank you very much for tuning in and for all the comments everywhere on social media. We'll be back tomorrow. Tomorrow is March. Goodbye, February. It's 10 a.m.